for the numbers to come up. I'm just going to drop mayonnaise or something on my top. Messy pup. Hi everybody, I hope you're doing okay. Just thought I'd come on and give a little bit of an update with some of the evidence and let you know what's going on with me. I'm just going to wait for the numbers to go up a little bit. They're massively suppressing my content. It's unbelievable. I just went on to TikTok, looked at the numbers, and as I was looking at the videos on my TikTok, the numbers of who had viewed the videos went down. Okay, that should not be happening. So what they're clearly doing is trying to stop people viewing the evidence that I'm presenting. I'm just going to wait for the numbers to go up a little bit, and then I'll carry on with what I was going to say. It's a lovely evening where I am. I hope it's really nice where you all are, and you're all doing really, really well. I'm doing okay, thank you very much, Andy. I hope you're okay. Hi, Julie. Hi, Emma. Hi, Jennifer. I hope you're well. Thanks very much for your message, and thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. Hi, Jane. Hi, Absolute Zero. Hi, JKK. Hi, Chartel. Who else have we got on here? Hi, Lisa. I hope you're doing all right. I hope you're okay. Thanks very much for coming on. So a little bit of a summary recap. There's not many people on here, but what we're talking about is international government fraud, overwhelmingly now linking into vampirism. We're talking massive connections now into the blood. I'm now starting to tie this in to not only the colonization of Northern America in the 1700s and how that links in with Hampshire and the creation of the 13 states in America, tying in with Hampshire in the south of England, which is obviously where Deborah Fleming was the NHS chief executive that retired in 2022 to become involved in my investigation, and then actually actively called for me to be removed as a director because I was refusing to file these forged bank documents whilst I was a director being created by the banks. Anyway, this is now being traced right back to not only the colonization of Northern America in the 1700s, but also the French Revolution, it now seems, in the 1700s as well, and the influence that the currency production that was taking place in the 1700s in relation to portals, which started to produce the currency in 1711, had a massive influence on the French government and the French Revolution that took place in the late 1700s, and how that appears to be now tying into vampirism and the blood of the innocent as well. And all of this is going to go back a very, very long way, much further than that, into what I believe is going to be a massive inverted deception within Christianity, where they have inverted the whole reason, if you like, behind Christ. And of course, Christ would not condone, we know that, if Christ was really connected to the true creator, would not condone the blood of the innocents to extend lives, because it goes against the very foundation of Christianity, which would be to, in a rational state of mind, treat everybody how you would want to be treated. Well, of course, you wouldn't want to be sacrificed for blood to be taken to extend lives, and therefore you wouldn't do that to anybody else. And they've gone completely against that. It looks as though they've infiltrated all Abrahamic faiths at the very least, and in fact all faith groups probably, in relation to the blood, and integrated the blood ritual element into those faith groups because of what I'm talking about. There's so much evidence now supporting this. I want to say a massive thank you to the information that came into me about the drones targeting me, and then I had information that potentially they're going to target me through directed energy to cause accelerated cancer to me. I don't know if they're able to do. I'm not feeling as good as I was. Hopefully that's just me a little bit under the weather, but there's undoubtedly been drones around me over the last few days, and around a week or so now, hasn't it been, since I reported it? And that was literally on the day that I was supposed to go to a civil court case that they'd set up. Okay, so they stole over £15,000 from my account, stole half of the property that I had with my wife, okay, using land registry to do that, and criminal documents produced by the criminal well, I don't even know they were produced by them because there's no name on the bottom of them, so anybody could have produced those documents. And this is what they've done to try and avoid accountability and liability. They're saying that judges have created these documents, but there's no name on the bottom of them whatsoever. So they came in, stole half of my property from me that I had with my wife, stole £15,000, over £15,000 from my account, in the hope that that would get me to go to this court case on the 20th of May with the risk of me losing absolutely everything in my life and having nothing left. Well, of course, I didn't go to the court case. I can't, because this is too big. And of course, that was a setup to potentially unalive me at that court case. There was so much evidence. Everyone was involved in it. My wife was involved in it, her family, the solicitor, the judges, all the judges around the criminal arrest case against me, linking with the same organisations, fraudulent companies, all being centralised to all of this, and it all tying into me as well, which I'll come to in a minute. So of course I didn't turn up to the court date to this civil court case, and the exact same day on the 20th I had this, and thank you so much for that information that came into me, very credible information that was then backed up by what happened later, that drones were being used to potentially locate and target me. And then it was 2 days later that I was up, because they also infiltrated and managed to prevent me having a VPN on my phone, which means my location was compromised. Okay, a VPN hides your location generally, so they took that away from me. They then took my YouTube down for, I think it was a day or two, and then Vanessa put a complaint in about it, so did I, and then Vanessa kindly let me know that it had actually been reinstated again. So they took my YouTube down, and that was instigated after some emails that I'd sent showing a video of me making a call to Dorset Police, backing them right into a corner, with them confirming that an officer was genuine, Marcus McCorkle 0360, Inspector of Dorset Police, which meant the emails that I've been sending to him, now it put them in a very difficult position, because I've got a recorded phone call confirming it's Dorset Police I'm speaking to, confirming that officer is genuine. I've then got the emails to back it up and support that they've been sent the main evidential research document. So anyway, this then prompted my VPN removal, the removal of my YouTube channel. They targeted me with a phone call to try and track my location from the bank at the same time, so I couldn't answer the call for long. I had to hang up straight away, because what they'll be trying to do is triangulate my call. Anyway, I then went up on a hilltop, and I was doing some research, etc. And this is a location where I've been a few times when, now at that point, the VPN had been reinstigated, okay, because I'd sent out the document to enough people that I was happy to then re-upload the VPN that they had taken off, even though there was a chance that that VPN might have been compromised by uploading it, if that makes sense. Anyway, up on this hilltop with a VPN, where I've been without the VPN, and suddenly these two men come along with a pole, which is obviously a transmission pole, some sort with a keyboard attached to this pole, and they were very nervous, very awkward. I suspect they were trying to find where I was previously without the VPN. Didn't know I was going to literally be out there as they came around the corner, and there I was. And of course, they then looked very uneasy. I started having a conversation with them. I said, "Oh, yeah," and he said, I said, "Oh, you can't remember exactly what was said at the beginning, but they basically said they were doing a survey." Looked very uneasy. Now, there's no reason they would have been at that location to do a survey, although I wasn't right on the top of the hill. It was sort of lower down in this tree line. It was somewhere where people would not generally go, quite sort of tucked out of the way. And I said, "Oh, right, yeah, you're using drones, are you?" Thinking, okay, these are going to be the guys involved in trying to locate me with the drones. And they said, no, it's much, and he said something like, it's much cheaper to not have drones or something like that. Anyway, they were there for minutes, very uneasy. Whilst they were there, I was videoing them. They didn't know, I don't think. So from that video, I was able to capture screenshots and publicise those screenshots of them. They went away, and within minutes of them going, I hear drones. And you can tell it was a drone 100%. A drone is like a very loud bumblebee, if you like. And you could hear it in the distance. And you can hear as the drone is changing altitude, it changes the speed or the sound that it creates. So of course then I was like, oh dear, what am I going to do here? It was a bit of an open location at that point. I couldn't get into that tree line, so I went into another bit, into a tree line. Anyway, it turns out of course, what I did then is publicize the photographs of those people, which gave my location away a little bit because they were from a bit of a distance. So of course this then, and I also attached those images to several emails afterwards and a new police report in relation to what had happened, with a reference police report, sent them to the inspectors 0360 Marcus McCorkle of Dorset Police, massively compromised by the fraud. He was the one that was involved in the fake non-molestation order in relation to my wife, with the forgery of the signatures when my wife probably didn't want to put her name to it because she realised what they were getting into. And he links to the intelligence agencies, to the COVID situation. Well, I won't say him, I'll say a company called McCorkle Limited. His surname is McCorkle. I can assume that could well be him. I can't confirm that. It wasn't actually his first name there as well. Anyway, so I then backed them into a corner with a new police report, saying that I'm being targeted by drones, probably going to take my life. They then generated a police crime report now based on that latest information. Now this is quite critical because I haven't had a crime report actually created since 2023, I don't think. So all of the other reports I've been making, they've been generating receipt, which is like a confirmation they have been sent and received my correspondence, which is lots and lots of reports, about 50, around 50. This now is a confirmation they have created a actual crime report based on that latest problem. So now this gives me an in, okay, for the document which proves everything to actually send to them. All right, so this now is a great opportunity. Now I suspect what happened was, because they knew I was publicising those photographs, giving away my location, they were then panicking, thinking, oh dear, well if Gary is now suddenly unalived by somebody, whether it be somebody else that wants Gary gone and not us that's involved, then we're in the khaki poo-poo. So I think they've had to generate a crime reference to sort of cover their back, their backside, if you like. But now that has obviously given me an in to get this evidential research document, which proves everything that I've been saying to the police and sort of backs them into a corner. Now, of course, it could be that what they're going to try and do is get rid of me before I have an opportunity to do that, and say, well, they've generated the police a crime report, but Gary was stupid. He gave his location away too much with these photographs, and now he's been taken out. So there is a potential risk that could happen. Now, again, thank you so much for the information that I've received about the drones, which I'm going to come to a bit more in a minute because it's just mind-blowing what I found from it. I'll just have a look at the comments. I don't want to ignore what you put in, just in case there's anything said. How the hell do you have a body warmer on, Gary? I haven't got a body warmer on. It's just a thin jacket. So where was I going to go with that? So the information I have is that they are able to direct energy from these drones to create rapid cancer in individuals. So I don't know if that's what they're going to be trying to do. I'm not feeling as good as I was over the last few days. We'll see. Time will tell. What was I going to say? Now, the drone evidence is absolutely mind-blowing. Now, I've put it on my Telegram channel. If you're not on my Telegram channel, I urge you to go on there. They are reducing the numbers on there, which that won't be people coming off of it, genuine people. That'll be them trying to stop the evidence getting out, so they'll be kicking people off of it. There'll be a lot of compromised people on there, of course there will. But my Telegram channel is Gary for Freedom. Okay, most of my platforms are Gary for Freedom now, with the word in the middle. Go on there, because what I've now done is literally put some chunks of the document that I'm about to tell you into the main page of my Telegram channel, Gary for Freedom. Also is the latest publicised main evidential research document on that page. So if you haven't already got it on the emails, and I haven't even gone into my emails yet, so please forgive me, have not got the time to go through them. I want to get this document done to a certain point to actually then go through all of my emails and send it out. But if you want the latest document, which I think was the 20th of May, so it wasn't very long ago, go on to my Telegram channel and you can get that document. You can download it from the Telegram channel, and then you've got it. Now, there's obviously a lot of spelling mistakes in there, but it has got the main chunk of the evidence as to what I've been finding recently. But I'm just going to tell you about the latest stuff that hasn't actually gone into that document now. Now, let me just read the comments. I don't want to be ignoring. Oh no, that's normal. Prayers, you feel better. Thanks very much, Jennifer. Hopefully I'll be okay. I mean, they are literally in a world of trouble. They are in a world of trouble now, because the only thing they can really do is get rid of me, because they've now opened the door to the evidence to be submitted to them, you see, for the first time since 2023. And then what are they going to do then? What are they going to do when they have this document proving everything? Now we're looking potentially then, what you might see is they shut down the entire Companies House record system, which will expose them, okay, but it will prevent people verifying the evidence, you see. Now, that is possibly on the cards. It may lead us into the 3 days of darkness situation, which links into the scriptural side of things, because they will be trying to tie a lot of this into what I believe, or I suspect, a lot of it is going to be falsified prophecies. And the 3 days of darkness says that there will be a complete shutdown of information across the world, including power and stuff like that as well, leading into the tribulation event, or tribulation period. Now, I'm not saying that is going to happen, but there is a chance that may be something they may be considering doing with all of this. I think they will definitely be considering shutting the entire Companies House registration system down. But of course, by doing that, they then expose themselves, and it creates a world of chaos in the business sector for them as well. So let me just have a look at the comments. Thanks very much for your comment. It's me, really appreciate it. Any support it means a lot. Everyone needs to understand I'm being guided. You know, and although it's lovely for people thanking me, please understand that I honestly believe that the Creator is guiding me, and actually the thanks needs to go to the Creator for giving me this ability to actually do this. And that's actually very important to me. But it's very much appreciated, people that are being very nice and saying lots of nice things. Thank you so much. Stay live for hours now, Gary, until you fall asleep. Well, I'm not going to fall asleep here where I am. And of course, the trouble is I'm very vulnerable in a tent. You know, I haven't got that protection. And of course, they'll be using night vision cameras on these drones as well. So, you know, I don't know what's going to happen to me, but I can just pray and hope that I'm going to get through this, and I'm going to be part of a solution to all of this, I hope. Would a laser prevent the drones? Someone said. Someone else has suggested getting a pen laser. The trouble is, they're very difficult to see them. They're so difficult because they can have these things a long way out. Very fortunately, they had them close enough for me to be able to hear them easily. But this morning, when I was laying in my tent, I think I heard a drone, but I think it was just that distance away where I can't be 100% sure, whereas before I was 100% certain. So what they could be doing is just keeping it far enough away, and of course it's quite difficult to see, and when my eyes aren't the best anyway, to be honest with you. So of course I wouldn't know where to actually point the laser pen. That's the trouble I've got. And of course at night it's even worse. So yeah, but thank you very much for the offer, really appreciate it. Oh, to take the cameras out, yeah. Like I said, I don't know if that can work with this situation. Gary, use a network scanner on your phone. If the IP host starts with 10, it's a private network surveillance. Let me just read that again. I'm not too sure if I understand that. Gary, use a network scanner on your phone. If the IP host starts with 10. Okay, I'll screenshot that. I'm not too sure what you mean, but I'll do a bit of research. Thank you very much. Opera is another VPN. Someone's put, yeah, thank you very much. Interesting, Opera is the name of the experiment that took place at CERN in 2012 in relation to this meeting with Jeffrey Epstein. And that links into the earthquakes. There's so much overwhelming evidence now tying the earthquakes into all of this. I've got to say, they've either set themselves up to make it look like they're creating the earthquakes, or they are creating the earthquakes. It's pretty overwhelming, to be honest with you, in relation to the earthquakes. Just a very quick snippet. So you had an earthquake in Iran on the 26th of December 2003. Prince Charles at the time, went and visited that earthquake site in February 2004, which is the 50th anniversary, not the exact day, I don't know the exact day of it, when CERN was originally founded in 1954. So he went and visited this earthquake in 2004 on the 50th anniversary, the same year as CERN, which appears to be able to create earthquakes. And then on the 26th of December that year, a year to the day after the Iranian earthquake, is when you had the massive Indonesian earthquake that caused the huge tsunami and the loss of over 300,000 lives. Now, the movie that came out in relation to that was called The Impossible, starring Ewan McGregor. And when was that movie released? On the 21st of December 2012, the exact day that the Mayan calendar ended, which signified, or the speculation, that it would be the end of the world. The same year that CERN claimed to have discovered the Higgs boson, or God particle, and that information was released on the 4th of July 2012. Okay, I thought that's when they actually did the test, all right, that actually identified it. No, they identified it prior to that. Well, in April 2012, you had a massive earthquake, okay, on the, I think it was the, I want to say the 10th of April. Was it the 10th of April? I think it was the 10th of April. 9 days afterwards, or 8 days after, whichever it was, is when Jeffrey Epstein held a meeting with Stephen Hawking and CERN scientists, okay, after that earthquake. So I think they were testing it, seeing if they could create a point of singularity or a black hole to end creation, to tie in with the end of the Mayan calendar later in the year. Realised they wasn't going to be able to do it because the technology wasn't ready yet. So they had to say that something happened. They said they found the Higgs boson, or God particle, that year. There's an actual article saying that Stephen Hawking wanted and was actively trying to get the Large Hadron Collider at CERN to create a black hole on Earth, right? With the end of the Mayan calendar, the speculation was that it would create the end of the world via a black hole appearing, everybody. All right, there's loads of other evidence as well in relation to all of these earthquakes. The 2011 one is massive. On the 22nd of February 2011 was the Christchurch earthquake. That ties in massively. There was the Opera experiment was being conducted with CERN at the time of that. The Large Hadron Collider at CERN in Geneva was conducting an experiment on that day. In fact, it was a period of time, but it included that day, with a facility in Italy at the time, and it was called the Opera experiment. Now, the Opera companies that I've identified through the Companies House records link into the Christchurch earthquake evidence. They've actually got a Christchurch earthquake appeal company, excuse me, that links to Ghislaine Maxwell, okay? Not only does it link to Ghislaine Maxwell, it connects to the intelligence agencies immediately from the incorporation document, which links to the Collider technology and CERN again, and the other earthquakes, everybody, all right? Not only that, from there, within the company where Ghislaine Maxwell connects to, it's the Foundation of Science and Technology. That was incorporated the year I was born, in 1977, and it dissolved in December 2022, which was the exact same month that I made the first report of the fraud in relation to what I was uncovering. But it not only is that organisation connected to intelligence agencies from the incorporation document via COBITS on its incorporation document, it connects to the Christchurch Earthquake Appeal Company. It connects to, what's the other organisation? Newton's Apple CIC company, which then connects back into the gravitational evidence and Apple being created the year before I was born, in 1976, and them changing the logo twice on the year that I was born. That then links into the blood of Christ, linking in with the Knights Templar and an organisation called St. Puy X, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, that was created in 1970, the year after Prince Charles became the Prince of Wales, and the year before the World Economic Forum began in 1971. And Stephen Hawking came out with the theory of Hawking radiation in 1971, and that was in relation to radiation being emitted from black holes, and that connects to the Church of Satan via the research in the year of 1966. Suddenly, after 1971, the research says that all of the prices went up around the world for everything, where they were trying to funnel money through into using the World Economic Forum, I believe, to funnel it in through into the collider technology to try and end all of creation in 2012 to tie in with the Mayan calendar. There's loads of other evidence within there. You've also got not only Newton's apple, what was the other one? The Big Bang. You've got a Big Bang company which links into what Stephen Hawking was expanding. This was within the Foundation of Science and Technology company. Big Bang relates to the expansion of the universe, obviously creation, okay, and the black hole relates to the destruction, the contraction of of our known universe, shall we say, for a point of singularity that it appears they were trying to create in 2012 to tie in with the end of the Mayan calendar, according to all of the research. And of course, this would then explain why in 2016, after the Pizzagate scandal started to be exposed, okay, which was a laptop being seized by the New York police, which started uncovering the murder, abuse and torture of children, tying in with the international criminal government system that was set up as part of the Reformation back in the 1500s, which began with the Freemasons in Scotland, okay. And then after that, in August that year, you had, now they're claiming it was a hoax. It's obviously not going to be with all of this other evidence. A ritual took place at the Large Hadron Collider, which is in Geneva in Switzerland, and that was by the Shiva statue. And the Shiva statue is an Indian goddess that represents creation, expansion of the universe, and destruction, contraction, point of singularity of the universe. 3 months after that ritual, there was complaints coming in all around CERN. There's an article about it saying it's creating earthquakes. So they then publicized another article which links straight to an organization that was linked to Klaus Schwab, the head of the World Economic Forum, or the chair of the World Economic Forum, with two scientists they brought in doing seismic activities at CERN, trying to downplay or undermine the concern that CERN was causing these earthquakes. Well, I researched those two people, and they go straight back into the same centralized criminal network. You've also had a fault occur with the collider technology. Now, I believe this is them saying it was a fault, so that if they didn't manage to achieve what they were hoping to, but it created some sort of big problem at CERN, they could then drop it back and say it was a fault. So you had a fault in 2011, I think it was, and you definitely had a fault. They first activated the Large Hadron Collider on the, hold on, what date was it? This was the 10th of September 2008, okay, and a fault occurred on the 19th of September that year, okay. The same day that fault occurred, Stephen Hawking goes and unveils the Corpus clock, okay, which is the grasshopper clock. Go and look at it, where it's literally eating time away, all right, where they're symbolizing time is running out with what they're planning according to all of the evidence. And that links back into Siemens, which is connected to the CERN Large Hadron Collider evidence again, which ties straight to Jeffrey Epstein, Donald Trump, the royal family, etc. Well, let me come back to the comments. I'm doing a lot of talking. Please fight them, Gary. If needs be, God will have your back. Well, it's interesting because someone I spoke to today, because I was having a conversation with someone today, they said, well, Gary, what if it's supposed to happen? What if it's supposed to happen? I said, look, I've thought about that. What if the end of creation is supposed to happen because that is God's will, or whatever, or Creator's will? I don't tend to say God now. And I said, well, that does not make sense, because the whole system that they've got to try and achieve this goes against the Creator in the first place, because they've gone against the moral conscience. And this person, who was a Christian actually, they said, well, yeah, I mean, you've obviously been positioned to do this. If you think you can potentially prevent it, then there's a reason, and obviously you've got to try. And so, well, absolutely, and I keep coming back to, you see a child running into a road, you don't just leave that child to be run over, you actually intervene and you try and prevent it. Now, maybe I can't prevent this. It may be my role is just to get people to believe in there's a Creator. I don't know before it happens. But to me, it just does not make sense for me to have this evidence. It does not make sense for all of creation to be ended. The system they're using is against the Creator, and we've got satanic connections into all of this now. Donald Trump's linked in with the Church of Satan. The research connects very quickly now to the Collider technology, to the Albert Pike letter written to Mazzini, which links into the satanic cults, and that talks about bringing about the light of Lucifer, tying in with a 3 World War deception. So it just doesn't sit right to me that I'm not on the right side of this in trying to prevent this. I have thought about that, but it just doesn't make sense to me. Right, let's have a look at the other comments. How could they take your money without your authority signature? Because what they did is they used a fake court order with no name on the bottom of it. It was all fraudulent and criminal, all right? But they tried to make it appear through a legal case with my wife that it was legitimate, but omitted names from the bottom of the documents, right? So they've got someone in the bank involved in this. All banks are involved in this, everybody. Every single bank, the whole system, all right, has been set up around the blood of the children. This is now obvious. It's obvious, okay? And how that ties in with an infiltration of Christianity, an inversion of Christianity. And they've even put now, when you research the connection between Jesus and vampires, they put that there's a result comes up saying, well, the modern analogy of Jesus is that he's a vampire. So they're trying to justify what they're involved in by making it seem as though Jesus was a vampire. This is how deluded they are. We know that's not going to be, or I don't believe that's the case, because if Jesus or Christ was real, I don't know if he's real, I don't think his real name would have been Jesus, I'm going to say Christ. If he was real, which I suspect he was, and he was linked to the Creator, then we know that they wouldn't have condoned the blood of the innocent in this, because it goes, as I said, against the moral conscience. But they have infiltrated it. Okay, they've even implemented, I believe, through the Eurochrist or Eurochrist for Christianity, for example, the blood ritual within those religious organisations to try and normalise, I believe, the blood of the innocent within those religious faith groups, and then try and make it seem, all right, and this is, I believe they've actually positioned people within these organisations to make it seem they actually are involved in child abuse, to turn people away from the Creator. And this is what it says in the Albert Pike letter written to Mazzini in 1871. It talks about bringing about the light of Lucifer, destroying Christianity, which would destroy faith and destroy moral conscience, if you like, destroying the Muslim faith and bringing about the light of Lucifer. But it also talks about destroying atheism as well, which is interesting. So destroying what I believe they're saying is a belief in no Creator, and they're trying to get, well, it looks like they're trying to get a belief in Lucifer. Now, whether that is an inversion of Christianity, and they're going to try and, because what this could be is a completely inverted double bluff deception, if you like, for the right person to come along, think that they're trying to actually turn everyone against Christ, to actually get that person to turn everybody to Christ. This is the sort of mind games and psychology we have to think with all of this. And this could be why a lot of this could be, I'm not saying this is the case, but it could be why we're seeing a lot of evil now, and I'm being able to join all of the dots to that evil, and a very great symbolic symbol of that evil with the system in place is the, if you go and have a look at it please to verify what I'm telling you, the the Order of Saint, is it Michael or Andrew? I think it's St. Andrew. I don't know, but if you type in Order of St. Michael's and St. George, it should come up anyway. Now, the sovereign for that is Charles, okay, and the Grand Master for that is the Prince Edward, the Duke of Kent, who is the Grand Master of the Freemasons. Go and look at the emblem, and it is a picture of a white man, okay, with wings, depicting to be an angel, with his foot on the neck of a black man in chains on the floor, right, depicting what happened with George Floyd. Now, if that does not depict evil, I don't really know what else. Now, I don't actually believe George Floyd died, okay? I believe this was a deception. Now, if you think about what I've just said to you a moment ago, what if they are portraying the evil across to the right person to join all of the dots to actually create an inversion back to and get everyone to focus back on Christ and moral conscience? And now, I'm not saying that is the case, but this is the sort of thing I have to consider because of the evidence, some of the specific bits of the evidence that I've got that's actually been handed to me on a plate by the people that are key in relation to all of this and tying in with the blood of the children. So, right, let's have a quick look at the other comments. Sorry, Gary, have you seen any interviews with Tim Cohen? Yes, I actually spoke to Tim Cohen, the Antichrist and Cup of Tea, and I kept sending my evidence on the company's house, on my WhatsApp, and he didn't respond. So now around the same time I originally spoke with him, people that don't know him, he wrote The Antichrist and a Cup of Tea, and around the time that I spoke to him was back in, I think it was 2024 actually, might have been 2025. I also had an email from somebody claiming to be from the military saying, Gary, I was given a mission by Princess Diana that on a particular date I needed to come out and tell the world that Prince Charles at the time is Satan. And there was a few emails going between myself and him, and at this point all of the evidence was pointing to the fact that that was the case, or they were trying to make me believe that was the case. Loads of evidence suggests that. A very good example is literally on the day that I released my evidence of the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales company on Company's House, which connects pretty much all areas of my research together, and it links to me immediately from that incorporation document to people that I grew up with on the exact same day, and I didn't even know this at the time. They unveiled the Charles's portrait, and that portrait was very satanic, and it had an inverted image of a Baphomet, and the Baphomet is the symbol of the Church of Satan. Now I think they did this deliberately for me to identify a connection to Satanism in relation to all of this, and there's lots of other things that I believe now they did deliberately, such as creating Satanic Temple United Kingdom on the Company's House records in 2023, even though they knew I was starting to expose the fraud. Okay, I hadn't found a satanic connection at that point, but they created this company, and then it dissolved on the exact same day that I think it was that Scott Chilton resigned as a police or retired. Yeah, it was, they put retired, I think, retired as the chief constable from the police, and he was the chief constable for Dorset, where I made my initial reports. They also, on the exact same day that what else happened? The exact same day that I started releasing the evidence of the adrenochrome, the blood of the tortured children, the Satanic Temple United Kingdom dissolved. Now, they would have known I was going to see that, so I believe that was deliberate. Anyway, let's have a look at the comments. So yes, and I have spoken to them. Yes, thank you. Gary, have you... Oh, he says Charles is the Antichrist and makes links to Chatham and the Flemings. I haven't seen that. Sorry, I've only just read the second part of your message. I haven't seen him mention Chatham. That's interesting. Thank you very much. That's where I was born. And Chatham House becomes very, very relevant to all of this. It's where the Institute of Foreign Affairs holds its meeting, and it was called Chatham House because of William Pitt, who was the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, or yes, I think it was the whole United Kingdom, in the 1700s, and he had been the Earl of Chatham, where I was born. Now that timing is critical, because the 1700s is when the currency production is happening. This is when the colonization of Northern America happens, creating the 13 states. This is when the French Revolution began, which is what I was telling you about earlier, all tying into this period of time when the currency is starting to be produced in Hampshire in the south of England, and how this ties into vampirism, because in Kent, okay, remember, Chatham is in Kent, where I was born. Hampshire is 3.5 hours away, where I moved to, not knowing anyone, in 2006. Well, Kent, Sittingbourne specifically, which is very close to Chatham, is where the world's largest printing factory was based, and that was printing the Penny Dreadfuls, and the Penny Dreadfuls linked to Sweeney Todd, vampirism, Frankenstein as well, which all ties in with the organ harvesting evidence, the blood of the children, the vampirism connection in all of this. This now explains, I believe, why my wife was trying to get me to watch the Penny Dreadful series on the TV. At the time, I had no idea about all of this. But there's certain things that are now making sense that happen in my life, because my wife knew about this. My wife knew about this. She's massively implicated. She's linking in with the Freemasons. That whole relationship was 100% set up in 2007, the same year that Madeleine McCann went missing, the same year that they introduced me to Exmoor Manor, where my investigation later uncovered all of this evidence, the same year that they actually then created Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited. And on the incorporation document is Diana Betts, who was a phlebotomist for the NHS, which links to the blood of the children, and Anthony de Rea, who's on that incorporation document for the company, links to the Vatican and the evidence that I later acquired in relation to the death of Jill Dando, tying in with the Vatican. You are pushing them to have to shut everything down. Keep going, warrior. I hope I'm doing the right thing, everybody. All I can do is do what my moral conscience is telling me. I can't do nothing if I believe children are suffering. I can't do nothing. Let's face it, if there's a risk, a slight risk to all of creation, then I've got to do something, because everything's at stake, isn't it? So, you know, I'm just doing what I just hope I'm on the right side of this. I hope it's not meant to happen, and therefore I become, you know, potentially, does that make me the Antichrist? If I'm going against what the Creator is willing to happen, or am I both? Am I both? You know, am I? And this comes back to the 13th bloodline, all right, of the Illuminati, where my ring goes straight to a document tied to the Illuminati, the 13 bloodlines of the Illuminati. Now remember, 13 states, 13 families, 13 bloodlines. Well, the 13th bloodline family supposedly has the blood of Christ and Lucifer from their bloodline descendant. So whether that's, I'm literally somehow both, I don't know. My ring also went immediately into 3 connections to the intelligence agencies, into the Collider technology. It also tied in with Rome. It connected almost immediately to the person that introduced me to my wife in 2007. This is through the company's house records. And what I've found now, actually, I'll just read the comments again, and then I'll come to what I've found out about the drones. Gary, I have a spare phone. I will put a SIM card in and VPN on it. And you can, thank you so much, but I can't meet anyone at the moment. And I don't think I'm far off being able to meet with people. Okay, I don't think I'm far off doing that. I just need to get this document out. I think one more time to a few people and try and get it out to everyone that's emailed me, and then I will have a serious think about what I do next. I've got an idea what I'm going to be doing next, to be honest with you. So I just need to think carefully about that. But thank you so much. Really, really appreciate your offer. Very, very kind of you. Thank you very much for your comment. NM, thank you very much. May the highest protect you. Thank you so much. Go all in now, Gary. Please turn the screw. We need you to do this. I'm trying my best. You know, this is all about timing, and this is all about me making sure I'm doing the right thing. I don't want to make things any worse than they already are for everybody. You know, I certainly want to try and survive getting through this, so I'm going to have some sort of, because I'm not compromised by anything, you see. So it's important. You need somebody that's going to be able to, with the skill set and knows what they've been doing, to know what needs to happen so it never happens again, you see. And we're going to be talking in a minute. I'm going to go into the drones. We're going to be talking about Zion, how that links in with to the Matrix, and how, you know, we've got to be careful that I'm not going to create a potentially vicious circle in relation to what potentially has been going on in the past. Now, it's very interesting because, let me just come to some comments, otherwise I'm just going to waffle. I don't want to ignore what you put in. Gary, all in now. Yeah, thank you very much for your comment, though. I'm thinking very carefully about this. They're going to get you if they want you, no matter what you do in the sky everywhere. Yeah, I've thought about this, but I don't think they're as capable as everyone thinks. All right, I'm getting a lot of information, seeing they're panicking. You know, in my view, they don't really know what to do about this. There'll be a lot of people running around. I'd love to be a fly on the wall. Remember, I've sat in meetings, okay, with people that are at the head of this, or massively involved in it, shall we say, Deborah Fleming and John Fleming. Now, these people are not invincible, okay, and they haven't got, I believe, the true creator on their side, which means they are probably more vulnerable than I am in this, because I don't think they've got that moral conscience behind them. Okay, I've probably got the abilities that I don't even realise I have yet, that will probably come to me over time through this connection I believe I've got. You know, you've only got to look at my dreams that I've been having that go straight to the control panel of the collider. I mean, that's not going to be a coincidence, is it? My dream, having a dream about McDonald's, based on information about the Ninth Circle, nothing about the collider in there, but then the next day, I then find evidence tying in, not the next day, then the next day I find connections in to McDonald's, tying in with the Ninth Circle via the research I then did, and then very shortly afterwards, I then find a connection straight to a technical problem at the Large Hadron Collider being called Hell or the Ninth Circle, right? Not only that, I then happen to, through my research a little while later, not that long afterwards, I find a company called Keller Group PLC that actually created the control panel for the Large Hadron Collider. I mean, that's not going to be a coincidence, is it? And then, of course, I then found out all of this information about the faults and the information I've just told you about. So, oh yeah, good point, Gary. The laser might not reach that far. Yeah, no, I mean, the thing is, I won't be able to see the drone. I think the laser will reach that far. Lasers will go very, very far. But it's a case of me not actually being able to see a drone to be out unless it comes close enough for me to see it. You see. So, just Proton, Musk can get through it. They're all compromised. All emails are compromised. There is no encryption, everybody. This is obvious. I've got the evidence. It's part of their deception. All right. They'll be able to monitor absolutely everything. I've got the evidence that they've gone into encrypted messages and removed messages. And I've got that evidence because I've already thought ahead, screenshotted information, gone back into it to try and implement that research into my document and realised that they've actually removed stuff. So, you know, nothing's encrypted. Unfortunately, it was always a lie. Because what they can do is say it's encrypted. That way they can then, you know, let's just say they're trying to identify somebody who is a bloodline of importance in this. What they can do is use that infiltration and that ability to spy on everyone to identify real people in all of this, right? To identify who's good, who's bad, who maybe they allow to come forward, as you know, if they are somehow twisting this into a, you know, there's good people in this that are infiltrating the criminal network that are facilitating me. Maybe they need to be sure of that they are selecting the right people to actually come forward and do that through that intrusive surveillance on humanity. Now, 100% there would have been intrusive surveillance or the ability to intrusively survey everybody on Earth. That's clearly there in my evidence. All of this rubbish about the RIPPER Act, the Regulatory Investigative Powers Act of the police, is a load of rubbish. They've been going against all of it. Clearly, this is why through my research you can see they position people as the head of the regulatory surveillance organisations within the police who are massively implicated in this. They go straight to the main heart of all of this fraud that I'm exposing in my document. You can see it. Trying scared Gary part of the test. Yeah, I 100% feel they have been testing me a lot of the time. You know, going right back to, was it February 2024? Well, first of all, they were positioning things, props and comments and information that made me believe my life was going to be taken, linking to the Russian government. And I was starting to tie it into the Salisbury poisoning of the Russian government link, which is all collaborative, everybody, all right? It's all connected. They're all involved in it. And then they set they sounded like Russians to me, but let's just say Far Eastern European, set that up with a glove being put down by my van at the same time to make me believe that I was going to be poisoned. Then I had a veiled car bomb threat, all right, that making me think I was going to be car bombed in my motorhome the same day that I made a phone call to the police, giving them the ability to trace my call, trying to get an update. And they banged on my door of my van twice that night. At the same time, I had a veiled car bomb threat, but they didn't. They haven't taken my life, so I can consider that they were a test to me. Were they a test? Let's see if Gary's, who, potentially I might be, to see if he's going to be willing to put himself on the line for the sake of the children in all of this. I don't know. This is something I've had to consider. You are protected, and your voice now. And our voice now, please go harder now than you ever have. If they are going to unalive you, go for it. If they're going to unalive you, they go for it, Gary. Give it everything you have got. Well, there's something I could do which would really put myself straight online, but I've got to think evidentially, and I just need to get a couple of things in this document. Now, just before I forget, I'm going to tell you about the drones. So we had this drone situation. So of course I'd already found that there was drone connections back in July 2022, which was the same month that Anthony Roberts of Exbourne Manor resigned, triggering my whole investigation, which is when the Georgia Guidestones were destroyed and removed, okay, which represented an upcoming man-made apocalypse. That was on the 6th, 2 days before I approached Anthony Roberts, okay, and that had an inscription saying the world population needs to be kept below 500 million. So that was destroyed 2 days before I approached, and removed 2 days before I approached Anthony Roberts. That exact same month, Kimball Musk purchased a drone company. So that's Elon Musk's brother. And then, of course, as I continue my inquiries in Exbourne Manor, everything started changing to X. You had Elon Musk change Twitter to X. Queen died. He wore a Baphomet on a costume, which is the symbol of the Church of Satan, to a Halloween party. Started to change to X, which is the bloodline of Christ symbol. Queen died 8th of September. Where was I going with that? Hold on, where was I going to go with that? There was something I was going to say. It's gone out of my mind. What was the first bit that I was talking about? It's completely gone. The drones. So then in 2024, as I continued the exposure, at the end of 2024 is when you had all of these drones flying around the world, and that was around the same time that the Archbishop of Canterbury resigned. Okay, Justin Welby resigned on the 12th of November 2024. And this was I had so much going on at this time. I was running around all over the place. I had ley lines. I was trying to follow ley lines. I was thinking that Julia Vandal was Madeline McCann, and I was having to potentially intervene to stop her being sacrificed. I mean, there was so much going on around this time when the drones were being circulated. Anyway, more recently, this drone evidence, obviously, I've gone into researching the drones a little bit more. But before I go into that, I'd already identified with videos and by corroborating it with evidence the connection into the Matrix movies, linking in with the Terminator movies, which was my best movie. My favourite movie was Terminator 2 Judgment Day, came out in 1991, same year that David Icke said the world would be devastated by earthquakes and tsunamis, okay, and he's linked to the intelligence agencies in all three of my families. So that movie, I then identified through a video, which you've probably seen, a lot of you, well before me, I would think, where the original writer for the Terminator movies was also involved in writing the Matrix movies. So that it was actually a followed continuation and a symbolic reference to Christ. Okay, and this is why, according to the information, John Connor, same initials, Jesus Christ. You had, what's her name, Linda Hamilton, who played the mother of John Connor, makes references to being Mary in the movies. Now, I didn't know this until recently. In Terminator 2, you have a reference to the World Trade Center disaster, where it says caution 9/11, with the truck hitting the bridge. There's a few other things as well, where in the phone book from the first movie, which came out in the 80s, I believe, the numbers next to her name in the phone book, Sarah Connor, relates scripturally. Now, I haven't verified that. This is just somebody that I've seen a video. So anyway, you then have the Matrix movies. Now, if you look at the titles of these movies, you had Judgment Day, you had Terminator Salvation, you had Terminator Genesis, all right, linking in scripturally. Then you look at the Matrix movies. The first Matrix movie came out in 1999, which was the year of the re-establishment of the Church of Satan, starring, as you know, Keanu Reeves. So that was just called The Matrix. The second one, Reloaded, The Matrix Reloaded. The third one, Revolutions. And then the last one, I think, was Resurrections. Okay, so that makes a reference to Christ's resurrection. And apparently, that was following in, and Neo, the character, which was played by Keanu Reeves, was actually representing John Connor in the future. Okay, when he became resurrected, didn't he? So he got shot, and then he became the One. He became the One after he died in the movies became resurrected and was then able to fight back against the machines, which is what it says in the Terminator movies. It's about fighting the machines, isn't it? It's about fighting the increase in technology. Now, this all goes back now. If we go right back to what happened with the Vatican, when you had this, I think you call it a schism. Is it a schism? Schism, where there's this sort of conflict of opinions and where it could go one way or another with it, and they were trying to decide how the church would integrate into the modern world. And this was back in 19. You had a pope supposedly died. Now I'm not too sure. I think that was sent to me to make me again another test for me. They made it appear as though one of the popes had died. Now and had been murdered after being a pope for 33 days. He was only for 33 days. Now this I think was in 1968 that he was supposedly murdered. I suspect that was a test. That is the year before Charles became the Prince of Wales. And that's the year that the moon landing happened, involving NASA, one letter short of Satan. And in 1958 is when Charles was initiated to become the Prince of Wales, and NASA was founded. Oh my God, I could go on another subject here. I'm trying to stick to one thing. So anyway, the Matrix movies obviously included Zion. Okay, I don't know if you've seen the movies, but there's an underground city called Zion in those movies, and the people that are awake try and from the Matrix, so the control of the machines, where they're all being linked up to the machines, it's called Zion, and they are in Zion, and the machines are trying to attack Zion. Now this was deliberately done, now it's quite obvious, as a symbology as to what we are now in at the moment, this crossroads, or this symbolic crossroads. So, you know, because all of this could be a deception, everybody. This all could be a deception. A lot of the technology could be a deception. They may not have the level of technology they're making us believe they may have, all right, as a scripturally related end time event that we're now potentially coming into. Anyway, so Zion in scripture, it relates to the promised land of Israel. It links into Zionism and the promised land, linking in with Jerusalem. And so they have Zion in there now. Also, and I'd forgotten about this until I researched it, because of the drone situation that's happened recently, I started researching drones, and someone sent me a message, thank you very much if it was you, saying, Gary, they're doing loads of tests at the moment in relation to the police drones in Wales. So I did a bit of research. It comes up with an article from 2025 in April that drones are being tested by the police. And I look at a video, and on the video is Sentinel written on the drones, these big unmanned drones. Now, I'd already seen a company with Sentinel on Companies House earlier that day, so of course this now prompted me to research it. Well, the machines in in the Matrix movies are called Sentinels. Okay, you know, they look almost like an octopus. You've seen the movies, and Neo is able to stop these, let's call them drones, but they call them Sentinels, and he stops them in their tracks to try and save Zion. So anyway, this company, Sentinel Unmanned, which is a drone company, goes to Export Manor Freehold Limited, where my investigation began. Not only that, they've created a company called Neo that goes back to Export Manor Freehold Limited. And Neo, you've got a company called The One Group Limited. Neo was called The One after the resurrection within the movie. Okay, that goes back to Export Manor Freehold Limited, where my investigation began. And that was a setup. They set me up to go into that location. Now, the One Connection, the One Limited Group, or whatever it's called, One Group Limited, I think it is incredible, because I'd already identified a one, what was it called? The One Club. And I identified that from somebody else, and you'll be watching, I'm sure. I think it was Sarah or somebody else, I can't remember. I'll come to the comments in a minute, please forgive me. I just want to get this out whilst I'm thinking about it. Someone said, Gary, if you need to look into the sphere. And the sphere was a brass, massive sphere sculpture that was put between the two World Trade Center buildings, okay? And that was commissioned in 1966, which is the year that they started the construction of the World Trade Center, and that is the year of the foundation of the Church of Satan. Now, the building was then constructed, the two buildings, the World Trade Center building, was then finished in its construction in 1973. And 1973 is the year that they started using the SWIFT international transaction system in the international government fraud that links straight to Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited. Okay, now that's also the same year, and I've said this many times, but this blew my mind when I heard this, and this shows you how relevant I'm probably going to be in all of this. 1973 is also when the Soylent Green movie came out, and that movie was before I was born. Okay, I was born in 1977, and it was about an innocent police officer in 2022 uncovering a dystopian future involving corporations around the world. I hadn't even been born. That's when I started my investigation about corporations, okay, taking over the world, all tying in with this. Not only that, but that movie was based on a book that was written in 1966, the year of the foundation of the Church of Satan. Not only that, but that book was based on the year 1999. 1999 is the year of the re-establishment of the Church of Satan. So 1973, that's obviously 2 years after the World Economic Forum began as well, which ties in with the other side of things. So anyway, when I searched for the one group, now all the other thing on that research surrounding the sphere, it was recovered from the site of the World Trade Center building. Now, its designer was a German person. The Church of Satan was named after a German knight in 1966, okay? And Germany was involved in the company Gutenberg's, which created the first mass printing of the Bible. Gutenberg's, via that research from Gutenberg's, leads to a company called DNA equals X, which links straight to Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited, where my investigation began. So via the research of the Bible, it links to Exmoor Manor and DNA equals X. And X represents, it seems, the bloodline of Christ in existence here on earth. Now, that sphere, his surname was Koenig, Koenig. That means king in German. Now, the research from him then ties with X-Men, because there's a family called the Koenig family within the Marvel universe, which ties in with S.H.I.E.L.D. Going in through the records, S.H.I.E.L.D. is also the name of the Red Shield, or Rothschilds, Red Shields, Rothschilds, all the way through this fraud, and there it is linked to Marvel, the Rothschilds, okay, tying in with that research from Koenig, from the Koenig family. Not only that, so that connects to Marvel, not only that, but on the exact same day that the relativistic heavy ion collider was, there's a reason I'm telling you this, because it ties into what I'm going to be telling you about the one. On the exact same day that they activated the relativistic heavy ion collider, which was started to be constructed in 1991 in New York, when David Icke came out and said the world would be devastated by earthquakes and tsunamis, and when my favourite movie, Judgment Day, came out, they activated it in, I think it was June, I can't remember the month, I think it was June 2000, the year before the World Trade Center disaster. On the exact same day is when X-Men, the first movie, the X again, representing the potential bloodline of Christ, was released, and it was its matinee, its release was in New York. So, and then coming in from its producer, Bryan Singer, who produced X-Men, it then links into whether it's real, whether it's a psyop to get me to believe the crimes against the children, I don't know. We have to assume it's real at the moment. You have massive connections into murder, crimes against children, going in through these directors for these movies. So X-Men came out that exact same day. Now, when you research the one group which popped up on Company's House, its previous name was Sphere. Okay, Sphere, which links back into the sphere that I'd identified tying in with Koenig, however you pronounce it, tying in with the sculpture at the World Trade Center. Now, there's loads of other stuff I'm going to forget, but when you go in through that one, it goes back into everything that I've been exposing, back to Export Manor Freehold Limited, all of the same stuff I'm telling you about. Now, the other, I'm just going to come to the comments so I don't forget about you. I'm way behind, so forgive me if you're putting loads of stuff on here. They won't unalive him, they just lost their power. We have one, people just don't know it yet. I hope so. But the thing is, what are these people going to do? You know, whatever way you look at this, they're in serious trouble. Because I can tell you now, even if everything else is a psyop, a deception, the overwhelming evidence says they've been laundering money and stealing trillions from the masses. So, you know, and exploiting and victimizing. And of course, you will have many people have unalived themselves because of the stress of this system, which should never have happened in the first place. People struggling financially, being addicted because of their addiction. They're creating it, everybody. They're creating all of the world's problems because of this financial system in place. They're behind the drugs, they're behind the alcohol, they're behind the mental health issues, they're behind the poisoning of the earth, water, sea. None of you should be feeling the way you are when you're struggling. Life is incredible. It's incredible. But what they've done is they've separated you from nature for a start, so that we don't appreciate nature. Well, as soon as you start doing that, you start losing touch with the Creator. And by separating us from our moral conscience given to us by the Creator, that then slips us into guilt, slips us into sin, affecting other people in their lives, by removing that rationality from us through the system they've had in place. So we are absolutely on the verge of, and I can picture it now, the most incredible heaven on earth. I can just picture it, and I know what needs to be done to start implementing it. And it'll be obviously it's not going to be an instant thing, but I can see the answers in front of me. I can actually picture paradise for everybody, no matter what skin color, no matter what culture, no matter what they want to believe, because we have to have free will. As long as people have moral conscience as their foundation, in other words, treat everyone else how they want to be treated, they don't want to be stolen from, they don't want to be abused, then as long as that is the foundation, and people stick to that through their rationality, which, remember, the system has removed that. So the system, whichever way you look at this, the system must change, and I believe I know exactly how that needs to change through transparency, at least on an initial transitional basis. So I can just picture an amazing future, an absolutely amazing future for everybody, and we will realise how difficult things have actually been for everybody. But it's going to be, you know, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to need a lot of rehabilitation, a lot of help. At the moment, there's no motive to rehabilitate because it's a problem, reaction, solution, criminal network. So there's no motive to actually resolve the problems. In fact, they need the problems to exploit. Because of the addictions and because of everything else, you've got this massive, constant necessity for payments to go into the criminal underworld. Okay, because you've got the addiction is a huge problem, whether it be pornography, whether it be drugs, alcohol, television, you know, the other technology they've got in place. Addiction is a massive part of this with them, you know, and of course addiction again separates us from that moral conscience. They're not thinking clearly, they're not thinking rationally, they're not thinking on morally conscience based, which will protect them and protect others. Someone's put an Organite Tower buster block a drone. Can Organite Tower buster block a drone? I don't know. I'm not very technologically minded, to be honest with you. If they wanted to get me, they would have. Gary's been marked as one of the good ones, one of mine, just scaring him. Tests, if he loses his SHIT, he won't lose it. Makes him stronger, digs him deep. Yeah, I mean, they've certainly made me think my life's going to be taken. But I'll come to some information in relation to the rapid response in a minute, which has become quite important in this. Still taking hits, Claire, not over, fights on mine. Stephen Hawkins, what an utter demon. How he had motor neurons for that many years is unbelievable. Might have been a deception. Might have been a deception. Neutrino array in Antarctica, someone's put. Yep, I've done the research around that. Again, that ties into all of this. If people aren't aware, you had a neutrino, or supposedly, it could be a deception, neutrino ice cube detector, which somebody came out and said they had worked at the Antarctica, and this was a real device, and that was the device that caused the Christchurch earthquake in 2011. Now, I've done research from that, and I you know, it's clearly showing in my research, but whether that is another deception or not, and they've set a trail of evidence up for the right person to expose it as a risk, I don't know. At the moment, I have to assume it's real. I sent comms out, no one won't see the good. God is with you, Gary, and God will not let you down. Thanks, Emma. Neutrino machine, an array of devices that actually creates neutrinos, which creates earthquakes, someone's put. Someone's actually said there's over 70 colliders around the world. Now, I know there's been more than the 2 that they're telling us are active. Whether those 70 they've had are deactivated ones, I don't know. But someone has sent me a list of around 70 or so colliders. They're using neutrino ghost beams to see through the planet like it's made of glass. They are searching the deep for the same veil gaps I see in the sky. We've got to remember, look, I have to consider that, you know, I'm being made to believe that my life's going to be taken and that they've got all of this technology and, you know, drones, etc. I have to consider that they can't even patch up holes in the road. We've got to consider that some of this could be a lie. I've got to consider the whole collider technology could be a deception. You know, I've even got to consider, this is how big I've got to think of this. I've had to think, is it possible that the World Trade Center building disaster, well, we know it's not what they claim, but was it that those 3,000 people didn't actually die? This is the sort of level we have to consider, all right, with this. Now, if you have enough actors and enough people in place, I believe that would be possible to collapse those buildings in a way, make everyone believe that 3,000 people died. Now, you've got to remember, there'll be at least tens of thousands of people involved in the deception against humanity. You've got 6 million Freemasons for straight away. All right, the Freemasons are massively part of what's going on. That gives them the ability, along with unlimited funding, to create the ultimate mass deception against all of humanity. Now, there's a very interesting video. They've obviously made us think that the planes hit them. You've probably seen it. I've seen it. A video that suggests that couldn't have been planes. So therefore, it's going to be something else that caused those buildings. The evidence that I've got 100% tells us that whole thing was about the Company's House records and everything I'm exposing and how that ties in with the collider technology, and specifically how it ties in with the children. You know, you've only got to look at the evidence that you can go and verify that the Genocide Act, okay, the legislation, the Act, was repealed. In other words, they got rid of it in England on the 1st of September 2001, 10 days before the World Trade Center disaster in England, and then on the 17th of September 2001 in Scotland. Now, that's just shouting corruption and shouting we're going to commit genocide against humanity. Now, you're talking ultimate evil. If these people are really doing this, if 3,000 people really did die, if they remove the Genocide Act so they can target the children, do I want to believe that you've got all of this massive evil, 6 million Freemasons involved in evil? I struggle to believe that's the case. I struggle. I'm not saying it's not the case. I'm just saying I have to consider that a lot could be a deception potentially for this moment in time. Now, remember, there's information being given to me by those that are massively implicated right at the heart of this that has actually facilitated me. So the question is, why would they have done that? Now, you could say, well, they are good guys infiltrating the criminal system. And they can't give that away, but they're trying to give me bits of information to support me because they know something about me and they know I'm going to end this or, bring about a different conclusion in this. But that is a big question. Why key people giving me information but not able to actually do anything themselves in this. Mel Gibson, he's linked straight into the fraud. Mel Gibson goes straight in to the centralised criminal system. I've done it. I've done the research. It's in my document. The same fraudulent companies linking him with the crimes against the children, which again supports what I've just been saying. He comes across as a brilliant guy. He did the two very important movies in all of this. Braveheart, very, very important movie about freedom, tying in with Scotland. I think it came out in 1995, I think. Key year when the Hackler International Advisory Board company was created, linking the intelligence agencies to the Russian government and to the royal family, which connects to me on the incorporation document again. He also did Apocalypso movie that came out in 2006, the same year that I moved from Kent to Dorset, and that is about the Mayan period, which then ties back into the Mayan calendar. Well, which is the end of the world situation we spoke about in 2012, the end of the Mayan calendar, okay? That same year is when the Da Vinci Code movie came out as well, which that relates to the deception within Christianity of the bloodline of Christ being on earth. The exact same time, same year, is when the Devil Wears Prada came out, okay, which links to my research via the Church of Satan. Now, Mel Gibson has also done he's got a movie coming out, the first part of The Resurrection of the Christ, okay, coming out in 2027. It was due out this year. Interesting. Did they change that? Thinking that the exposure would be at a time when they would actually be able to release it, and because the exposure's not quite there yet, they're going to wait and do it next year. Who knows? Second part supposedly coming out 2028, supposedly. He did the first movie, which was the what's it called? You'll know. Not the crucifixion. It's about the crucifixion. Now, it's interesting. They put the word "the" before Christ in both of those movies. Now, normally, if you're talking about Christ, you wouldn't say the Christ. This is suggesting they know, in my mind, this is suggesting a potential deception that they're going to disclose in relation to the bloodline of Christ. Because why would you it just doesn't make sense, the Christ, as if it's changing from Christ. You don't say the Christ when you're talking about what's written in the Bible. You talk about Christ, you don't say the Christ, and then suddenly these two movies, the Christ. Now that first movie, okay, came out in 2004, not long after. Remember we said about the earthquake in 2003 in Iran? Charles visited that Iranian earthquake in February 2004, the 50th anniversary of CERN. Well, that first Christ movie came out that same year, okay? And what the other thing was, Apocalypse, I've mentioned that. I think I've covered that. There's loads of other stuff with him, but they've measured what they're calling a 4D ghost resonance, an invisible structure in the tunnels that is literally diverting their particles. Oh my goodness me, that sounds very technical. Was Epstein a spy for foreign governments? Is that how he made his money? Epstein is obviously a scapegoat in all of this. This is way, way bigger, obviously, than what they're telling you through the Epstein files. Remember, you've got to remember, that's them that's behind this whole system, which is a massive centralized criminal network tying with the Vatican and with the Collider technology, giving you that information, okay? That's the first thing you need to remember. So you need to take whatever they're saying really with a pinch of salt, all right? Jeffrey Epstein was massively linked in, along with the there's people behind this you won't even know the names of, okay? He's a named scapegoat face that they put to it, giving them the ability for others to remain anonymous in relation to this. But it all links in with the Vatican, okay, and to the Collider technology. This is not what they're telling you, and it ties in to the blood of the children in all of this. These are the key things. There is apparently information coming out linking the Jeffrey Epstein files on social media in with the bloodline, with the blood element of the crimes. But generally, they're not coming out with the extent of what the evidence is really showing, and they're certainly not talking about the fraud, okay, and the trillions of pounds that would have been able to be defrauded from everybody through this, and they're not talking about how the Epstein files connect in with or to the extent that they should be if they want full disclosure of the Collider technology tying in with the falsified prophecies and all of this. But yeah, he's 100% linking in with the intelligence agencies. Go and have a look at a picture. I've just put it into my document, actually. Go and have a look at a picture of Jack Straw next to Jeffrey Epstein. Almost identical. Now, Jack Straw is critical. He links, if you go and research him on Wikipedia, he was involved in a intelligence-led operation in I think it was the Middle East, I can't remember. Critical connections coming in. Jack Straw was also connected to Jersey. Okay, Jersey and the investigation of Hort de la Garonne, which ties in with Jimmy Savile, ties in with the Dolphin Square, if you're aware of that, where aristocracy and members of the government were tied into supposedly property called Dolphin Square in London, linking in with Jimmy Savile, linking in with, I think Cyril Smith ties in with that. Certainly, what was his name? Edward Heath ties in with that, and that ties in with Jersey. I suspect, because they're so similar, either Jack Straw is a twin of Jeffrey Epstein, certainly in two pictures look almost identical, or it's the same person. Now, this is the same with John Cousins, who was the mayor of Glastonbury at the time of my research, okay, that links through the Company's House records to the blood of the tortured children, that connects immediately to Donald Trump on the document that I have in relation to adrenochrome via Trump Towers, via the address on the company called CYM, goes straight to Trump Towers. But John Cousins is the spitting image of Peter Gilmore. Peter Gilmore was positioned as the head of the Church of Satan in 2001 after the World Trade Center disaster. Now, if you go and look at, which I need to research, and this is thanks to somebody else for telling me, because I've just started having a look, what's his name? Anton LaVey, who was the original founder of the Church of Satan in 1966, looks the spitting image of, what's his name? Andrew Tate. Spitting image. The other connections I cannot ignore with how they look, again, are the twins. Now, remember, what were the two towers called? The Twin Towers of the World Trade Center. The Twin Towers. Were they telling us they're using twins as part of this deception? This is the thing now we have to consider. If you go and look at Taylor Swift, compare those images to Xena, who was the daughter of the Church of Satan. Now, that alone, I'll be thinking, okay, maybe a coincidence. The Company's House research supports that is the same person or potentially twins. And Taylor Swift. The Swift name ties in, remember, Swift International Transaction System, that they started using in 1973 in relation to the laundering of the money around the world. Swift Incorporations Limited is the company that started Export Manor Freehold Limited, where my investigation began. Swift is the name of the fake asteroid in the Derren Brown apocalypse deception of 2012, the same year that the Mayan calendar ended, representing a black hole appearing on Earth, potentially speculating the end of the world, end of the Mayan calendar. That was the same year that Derren Brown came out with the apocalypse deception, okay, where he made a particular individual using special effects, using television channels to make them believe that the world was ending through an asteroid strike, and that asteroid was called Swift. Now, I found that out by a friend of Sasha Stone. Sasha Stone connects to the blood of the tortured children and the research I've just told you about John Cousins linking him with someone who looks like the identical of the Church of Satan. Okay? So this tells us that the whole lot could be set up for, I'm not saying it is, at the moment I have to consider the threats are real, but I'm almost at the point of saying, the obvious is really quite strong as to who I'm going to be in this, and therefore nothing can happen to me, and therefore nobody needs to worry about this, and I'm going to go and stop it all. Very close to doing that, but I just need to make sure, because obviously if I get that wrong, and I'm taken out of the equation, then I think we lose a good chance of saving or creating the a conclusion in this that we really want. If it truly does feel like time has sped up since 2020, yeah, it does, doesn't it? I mean, it does as you get older, doesn't it? Time just absolutely flies. Now, people have said, Gary, do you think that they're altering time with this technology? I'm not going to completely disregard that as a possibility. If they're messing around with, if they really are messing around with, potential black holes or whatever, then that could have an effect potentially on the time situation. So whether that's part of it, I don't know. But my instinct, based on the evidence, is that it's not. Now they're trying to make me believe that there's a time manipulation with all of this. One of the things they have been doing for this very reason, I believe, because I can't see any other reason why they were doing it. And they know I'm researching the Companies House records, and what they're doing is they're putting a future date for a dissolution of a company. So in other words, when I go into a company let's say on the 18th of November, they're already saying that the company dissolved on the 20th of November. Well, you can't do that. You can't. But this is and I think they did that deliberately to try and make me think that there was a time discrepancy. And that, again, could have been a test. All right, because what that would do, if they were able to manipulate time, along with other evidence that suggests they could be manipulating my mind and could be manipulating the things around me, that then separates me from a belief in the creator. All right, because if you start to believe that humans are manipulating time, space, and energy and matter, then you're saying that they are the creator, practically. You're saying they're the creator, and then that removes the belief system in the true creator. So this could be, again, another test to work out the deception and actually identify that, and then come back to the creator and make that decision through the evidence to actually know this is them testing humanity to try and see if we'll separate from the creator and potentially individuals in all of this. Is that going to make them turn away from the creator, and therefore they're not who the evidence is pointing towards, and therefore it can't be them, or a test for humanity, if you like. The truth, someone's put, the truth is the Freemasons have been giving you evidence that everybody brushed off and said nonsense. You don't know what you're talking about. Look at NASA patches. For every mission there's a hint. I don't know what I'm talking about. Everything I'm saying is supported through the whole Companies House record. So unless what you're doing is in referencing it into the Companies House records, for whatever reason, they put the trail of evidence of the truth within the Companies House records. Now, this is why Klaus Schwab announced that he was stepping back as the chair of the World Economic Forum for the first time since 1971, within 3 days of me sending my evidence to them. That's not a coincidence, everybody. He then resigned on the exact same day that the Pope supposedly died. Now, I don't believe he died. I don't believe the Queen died. I don't believe half the people they're claiming have died have actually died. So it's very, very clear that what I'm saying, I'm not saying all of it is bang on, absolutely, because I'm trying to work through the rubbish, and they are sending many, many people to make me try and deviate. Again, it could be a test to see if I'm going to stay on the right track and actually go with get to the right conclusion in all this. Gives you a hint to the evidence you just wish not to see. Someone's put Satanism in every NASA patch. Let's have a look at the comments. Big percentage like mosaic, understanding Epstein. The all-seeing eye, the owl, the Bohemian Grove. Yeah, I've researched Bohemian Grove. It's in my document. Do they worship the owl? But they've obviously created a very difficult conclusion in relation to who is 100% behind this, because every single faith group is linked into this. Every nation, practically every nation. So I think you've definitely got, what I can tell you is there's a huge satanic link in all of this, massive satanic link, and there is very good evidence to suggest that those behind the system don't really know what to believe. So what I would probably go with on this, based on my overall evidence, is they really don't know what they believe, all right, and they're looking for something to believe in. That's what the evidence is suggesting based on the information I've got. But there is a massive satanic connection in with this. There's definitely underlying Egyptian connections in with this. Massive Christianity link, huge Christianity link, Judaism. There is also connections to obviously the Muslim faith in here, because you've even got say obviously, but they've potentially made that seem like that, because you've got to remember the Albert Pike letter, I believe, is absolutely crucial in all of this. Now, they tried to get me to believe that was the one bit of evidence that was a lie. Okay, now they had people coming out saying all of the right things, turning around to me and saying, Gary, that bit of evidence is the only thing that isn't true. That is the bit you need to disregard. Well, no, I've got absolutely critical evidence suggesting that is the most important. Now, again, could have been a test. Is Gary going to actually identify the relevance of that document, or is he not? And I have. It's massively ties into Madeleine McCann. It basically joins or creates the motive of the deception within that document, along with all of the other evidence around it, tying in with Madeleine McCann, the earthquake technology, the Mazzini, Garibaldi company that I've found linking with Donald Trump, Jimmy Savile, all of these, the royals, and tying into all through this, Harry wearing potentially the skin of Madeleine McCann. That if I was to say, look, do I believe that's the case based on the evidence I've got? Yes, that's what the overwhelming evidence says. That would explain why now I have to think, although it looks like that, have they deliberately put that there for me to be the only person to be able to find that, because of who I may be in this, to join all of those dots together to think that was the case? Now, I'm not saying that's not the case. If someone was to say, Gary, what do you think happened to Madeleine McCann based on the evidence that I've got at the moment? I'd have to say, well, the evidence says that she was unalived, her skin was used in the shoes of Prince Harry, and he wore those shoes at the time of Jeffrey Epstein's arrest. That's what the evidence suggests. Do I want to believe that's the case? Of course I don't. Do I believe Prince Harry is clearly evil if that's what he would do? Look, that's what the evidence suggests. They could have just put that there for me because of who I am, to come to that conclusion, to then realise, and to really, let's face it, if I'm thinking that children are being skinned alive and that they're being making shoes and things out of children, and I am so in touch with the creator for whatever reason, then I'm going to literally put anything on the line, aren't I, to save those children, against all the odds, enabling them to then come in and test me. Is he going to keep doing it? Is he going to keep doing it? To then come in and, and then you then come back to the Albert Pike letter. Well, what if that Albert Pike letter was again put there to make me think they're trying to bring about the light of Lucifer and evil on earth, concluding in the end of creation, but actually they knew that because of who I may be in this, that I would actually invert that back, turn it round, and they were actually trying to get me to bring everybody to Christ, or to bring everybody to moral conscience. Who knows? But by doing it, obviously they've exposed themselves to a whole world of problems because of the financial criminal system they've had in place, and all of the poor people that would have suffered as a result of that system they've had in place, including them. They would have been suffering over this, because what they will be doing is, they'll be addicted, a lot of them. So, they're going to be suffering in this as well. This isn't just about the innocents suffering. This is about the entire world suffering. And they've even told us, if they're really involved in the blood of drinking the blood and transfusing the blood, which the evidence suggests, this is massively what this is about. I've got to say at the moment, based on the evidence I've got, yes, it would explain a lot. It would explain so much of this. Then, of course, Varney the Vampire, if you go and read about it, that was as if it was them portrayed in that character, them loathing their lives because of what they're involved in with the children and the blood, and that character actually ends up committing suicide. And that ties into Sweeney Todd Group, into the Lloyd family, back in with the Flemings and everything else. So, look, at the moment I've got to perceive that everything is real, because if I don't, then I won't keep ensuring that I create change in this. I've got to based on the evidence, I've got to believe that all of those threats are real to humanity, to children, to creation, because that will drive me forward to potentially come forward as who I may be in all of this and end all of this in the right way. Just want to talk about the rapid response quickly. So I've recently gone back in, I missed a bit on my document actually. Phil McLaughlin, he's probably going to be watching this. He came in with a comment when loads of people were targeting me on Facebook messages in 2012 and said basically they're going to, pretty much said they're going to steal my motorhome, which obviously ended up happening. That's prompted me, because I've found that today, I've delved into Phil McLaughlin a lot more. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. And they are very much at the heart of all of this. Rapid response, P. Diddy. I think, not P. Diddy, Mikey P. I think Mikey P's real name, well, there's a record for Michael Pearson. I suspect that's going to be his real name. Pearson is an associate family of the Cray twins. All right, so now coming in from, and the Cray twins were who my father's family associated with, okay? And it looks like the Cray twins were involved in potentially the infiltration of the royal family in all of this. But anyway, coming in from Phil McLaughlin now, I've now found multiple connections to royalty, multiple connections into, there's actual vampire links into this, there's voodoo companies via the research from Phil, which ties back in with potential black magic, and the evidence of Aleister Crowley is hugely significant. Aleister Crowley was involved in black magic. He is connected to the Osmsley Manor, which connects to the Profumo affair and the collaboration with the Russian government, with the UK government over the deception regarding the international conflicts. And that Osmsley Manor connects immediately into Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited. You're talking immediately. Now, and you know, little things like on the incorporation document, they put Threesome Limited and crossed it out and put the name that's actually registered. Now, most people aren't going to put join all of those dots together. But because somebody told me about the Profumo affair, it led to me identifying a trail of evidence through Osmsley House. The Profumo affair was about a threesome. Okay, it was about a lady involved in a relationship with somebody from the Russian government and somebody from the UK government. So a threesome relationship. On the incorporation document, they've actually put threesome. Okay, so of course that through an Osmsley Manor company. So of course that then supports that this is all the case. Now, to have got all of that evidence and put all of that together along with vast amounts of others to join all of the dots, and then linking Aleister Crowley, who lived by Loch Ness, so I suspect he was always the Loch Ness monster. A deception. I don't believe dinosaurs ever existed. I don't believe an asteroid hit the Earth. I think Loch Ness was named after him. He lived right by Loch Ness, which explains why when I went to Inverness, just at the north of Loch Ness, the 2 or 3 properties I went to, but 2 of the main properties I went to, without even researching them, linked straight to John Fleming. John Fleming is the husband of Deborah Fleming, who initiated my removal of Exmoor Manor right at the other end of the country. You couldn't get even further away. Well, you could if you went a bit further south, but that's the opposite ends of the United Kingdom. And yet I've got this link to Inverness, to John Fleming, and to the royal family, and to the Hampstead Child Abuse Inquiry, and to CERN. This all connects in a very small bit of research to Peter Mandelson, to Jeffrey Epstein, to CERN, to John Fleming, Princess Anne, all tying in now with this Inverness location, even though I didn't even research it. And that's not going to be a coincidence. And this of course would explain why Inverness was so heavily connected, because not only did you have Aleister Crowley living right by Loch Ness, you also had his connection to Osmsley Manor down in the New Forest, but also you've got connections around the islands of Scotland. Donald Trump, his mum was born on the Isle of Lewis. Okay, MacLeod was her name. One of the solicitors I went to, I didn't even know at that point. It's MacLeod and McClellan. I believe that's going to be linked to Donald Trump's family. Okay, this solicitor's that I happen to go into Inverness, which will be linking in with the evidence of Aleister Crowley. The Flemings had a property north of Iona, linking into the Iona end of the world prophecy. They also had a property in Glencoe, which is where Jimmy Savile had a property towards the end of his life. I'm just going to read your comments now. I'm waffling on. Time actually has sped up, and degree of planet rotation changed. Well, yeah, I mean, that's a lot of people have said that. It's possible, if the collider technology is real, then it's possible that that can create the problems with the differences with the Earth's spin and angle, etc. Because you've only got to go and look at CMS CERN, type that in, and you'll see a website for CERN, and it talks about having the ability to create the magnetic field 100,000 times as powerful as the entire Earth, just in the Large Hadron Collider. But it could be that that's not really happening. I don't know. Maybe you're an expert and you know how to check whether the degree of the planet is changing or not. Maybe it is. I don't know. How many affluent people go to Bohemian Grove all the time, every year, whenever they are their party? Alex Jones was the first person to infiltrate Bohemian Grove. Someone's put, it's just as jaded in Hollywood. I'd be glad to hear Mel is on the right. I'd be so glad to hear Mel is on the right track. Well, like I said, he's definitely linked into the international government fraud. So if he's innocent, then you've got to consider that a lot of the other people that we believe are compromised are innocent in this. You can't really be innocent if you're part of a money laundering system and you're not exposing it once you know about it. If it's linking into the facilitation of the children. Someone said to me the other day, it could be, Gary, a lot of them don't know that they're even part of this, like I didn't. And yeah, absolutely. But once you know about it and you know it's linked to the crimes against the children, if you don't come out and you do your best to expose it, then I believe, personally, you become complicit to it. You become complicit to the world's problems. Someone's put, give us everything now. Please don't hold back, Gary. People saying we have won. What about the thousands of families still with children believing they're in a different agenda, still with the different personalities? No winning, they're just in constant hell. Yeah, I've got to say I agree with what that person said. It's all very well saying we've won, we've already won. You can't rely on that. That's what they want to hear. That's what people that say Jesus is coming, just wait for Jesus, you don't need to do anything, everything's going to be all right now, it's already decided, God wins. No, you don't do that if you have a problem, do you? God, the Creator, has given us eyes, ears, moral conscience, hands, to actually do something with information that we have to prevent the suffering of innocents in ourselves. So I agree with what that person says. I don't believe we can just say we've already won and you don't do anything about this. That just doesn't make sense. That's like saying you don't do anything with any problem. That's like saying there's a child running towards the road. I don't need to do anything about that, do I? Because it's in the Creator's hand. No, I believe we've been given free choice and the ability through moral conscience to do the right thing actively, to actively and practically do something. Someone's put, you either choose to believe or not to believe, but all the evidence points to Satanism runs American politics. Yeah, the evidence does. The evidence is pointing towards that, absolutely. You've only got to look at the 300 children, but again, they provided us with this information. But yes, at the moment, we've got to assume that all of this is really going on until we know otherwise. We have to, because otherwise we won't deal with it in the right way. 300 children from the same school, the McMartin school, all claiming to have been sexually abused, some of them claiming to have witnessed the decapitation of babies and the drinking of blood, which is the same modus operandi as the Hampstead Child Abuse Inquiry in London. And then they covered the whole lot up according to the evidence. We have to consider that's real until we know it wasn't. And that ties in with the Church of Satan and some key timing in relation to all of this as well. So the same will be happening with police using drones now. No one is targeting anyone using drones because drones grass on themselves before they leave the ground if operated by humans. Yeah, well, the worry for me is, and again it ties back in with the Matrix, the concern is that automated machines become in control of everything. If that's really a threat, and they're telling us that's a threat, they're actively making us think that they're aiming to do that. All right, so it could be it's a test. What are you going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? Are you actually going to stop what they're telling us they're aiming to do? So and that does worry me. The whole Palantir thing, the facial recognition cameras, and Sadiq Khan's now come in and supposedly blocked a Palantir contract with the Metropolitan Police, which is caused, but they're all working collaboratively on this. It's very, very clear that's the case. How, because and I still have to consider that technology may be implemented with other technology to autonomously silence individuals such as myself who are trying to save the children and bring humanity into a system of transparency and truth. So that is something we have to still consider is part of their plan that they're telling us about. But they're telling us. So therefore it becomes a test to you, whether you realise it or not. If you really believe that all of these things are happening, then you need to be doing something about it. It's simple, isn't it? If you really believe that the crimes against the children are happening and that all of creation is at stake, then you need to be doing something about it. If they want you, they're going to get you. You can't hide from them. Well, yeah, but you've got to ask the question, why would they have suddenly come around the corner and expose themselves to having their photographs put in a document for the skinning of children? Now, either, if they did that deliberately, then that's really silly, isn't it? I mean, why would you put... Or they're actually not as capable as people believe in all of this. And remember, these people are human. These people make mistakes. You've only got to look at Donald Trump. Some of the videos, the maths video. I mean, I looked at that and was like, surely they're doing that deliberately. Surely they're doing that. And don't forget, they're compromised by the removal of rationality. Right? Whether that be through drugs, whether that be through alcohol, whether that be they're not in touch with the creator. So this makes them not as capable as you believe they are. Okay? These are not invincible people, everybody. These are not some, they're not aliens, I don't believe. They're not shapeshifters, they're not lizards. I don't believe that based on all my evidence. If that changes, but there's too much evidence I've got confirming that was a lie. Somebody's put, give it up, Gary, you're grounded. Go get a greyhound, Gary. Yeah, I'd love another dog. I still haven't. This is one thing I find very hard to put my finger on. If they're not evil, then to me, taking my dog and me never seeing them again, I mean, that to me, I just can't understand that. Why you would separate someone who that they know that I love my dogs very, very much. One of them died 2024 in my arms, actually. Couldn't have been a better way. And the other one got taken after I was arrested, and I've never seen her again. Rosie, and I'll probably never see her again. Now that plays on my mind a lot, because the connection I have with animals is, I think we have a lot to learn from animals, if I'm being honest with you. They are what they are. There's no ulterior motive. Every dog I see now, I want to say hello to it. I said hello to at least 2 or 3 dogs today, and I've got so much respect for animals. It's just unbelievable. I just value animals massively. But yeah, that was hard for me, losing Rosie, and that just makes me think, that there is some element of evil in this. I've been watching Mel. He's legit, hun. He's linked to the international government fraud and the apparent crimes against children, to the same companies, exactly the same companies, linking in with the apparent crimes against children. Read into that what you will. This includes a company that he founded, so he will know that he's going to be linking in with the fraud. Gary, you will be dead already. You are destined to tell people this. I'm not convinced we won on ground. Putin just declared World War III today. Oh, I didn't know that. I can't believe how many people think that King Charles' portrait is fine. It is so satanic for those with eyes to see. It's interesting because that portrait was unveiled on the 14th of May 2024. When I then went back in, now they must have done this deliberately for me, I'm guessing for me, I don't know. A few weeks later, I went back in to because I have to go back over the research to see how it ties in with other acquired research since. There was a second portrait. A second portrait released on that exact same day. This one was completely normal, as if they were creating, again, this could have been a creation of their creating, because I actually came in on the back of that and said, oh, I wonder if they're trying to create two different timelines here as to where this is going to end up, one being satanic and one being, righteous, if you like, a righteous, transparent conclusion in all of this. I found that very interesting. So what plan are we going to do, Gary? I'm not talking about my plans. Yeah, this is something I need to keep to myself. Anybody in the American government has power. Obama, Trump, Clinton, Bush, they're all together. They know it. Oh, 100% they're all together. Coming in from the research of the Butterfly Trust, which is what Jeffrey Epstein supposedly opened Morgan Stanley accounts, I think, and put two people as an executor, one with the surname of Khan. Interesting. Bearing in mind we're talking about Sadiq Khan. The Khan connection becomes important. Well, the research from the Butterfly Trust links to the Schuler family, and the research from the Schuler family goes straight into all of the bloodline connections for the Western control of the world. So it mentions Clinton families, Fitzroy families, loads of others as well, coming in from Jeffrey Epstein via the Butterfly Trust. So yeah, that evidence is all in my document. The Clinton and Trumps were great friends before Trump became president, someone's put. Oh, they'll be trying to distract you, trying to deceive you, making you think that they're friends when they're not, making you think they're friends when not friends when they are. A great example of that was after a key was given to Elon Musk, which I believe now was deliberate for me to try and think that it was the key in relation to the revelations, the key to the abyss. So I then came out with the evidence suggesting that that was the key to the abyss in the revelation, which could potentially tie into CERN being the abyss. And then suddenly Elon Musk and Donald Trump had their falling out within a day or two of me actually coming out with that evidence. So I think they timed that deliberately. No Obama, not a puppet of the masters. Obama's guilty as everybody else. Yeah, they're all involved in it, everybody. The whole system has been set up around what I'm exposing. It's obvious. What about Robert Maxwell's staff who faked documents and are all still faking documents? Yeah, it's not just, it's the entire government. It's the entire government. Every councillor, every head of the police, head of the NHS, the whole system has been set up around this deception, tying in with the Vatican and tying in with the Reformation back in the 13th century. 13th or 15th? 13th century, the Reformation, beginning in Scotland with the Freemasons. What about halfway? Should they not be banned from working as accountants and solicitors as they are fraud? Oh, 100%. The whole the solicitors have been centralised right around the world to, according to the research, the paedophile information exchange linking them with satanic cults. Okay, the strategy still needs to be they all need to be arrested. Okay, they all need to be arrested. They need to be removed from their position of influence upon the earth. All right, until we can work out what the truth is. I don't mean harm them. I don't mean cause any suffering to them. They need to be interviewed if necessary. It's going to be a big job. It's going to be. Someone keeps saying to me, Gary, this is the biggest crime scene. The entire world is a crime scene. Yep, it absolutely is. It's an absolute pickle that the world is got into over this. Does not the general public have the right to know who these British citizens are? Yeah, of course they do. Absolutely. I've actually thought about, how do you, because I don't believe in taking life, and I thought, well, if this is all really going on, what you could do is leave it in the hands of the Creator. In terms of, France got rid of the guillotine. Now, every other execution you could fake, pretty much, and they could actually still be alive, other than the guillotine. All right, if you publicly show someone's face and them having their head removed. Now, I'm not saying I condone this, but this is what I've been thinking. Look, if these people are really a threat to creation and to children, they're not going to change, and all of the evidence suggests they're not going to change at the moment. Set up a guillotine, put a candle. So you choose a date in the future. You put a candle under that under the rope. I'm saying this half-heartedly. Put a candle under that rope, and if it rains or the wind blows it out, then the Creator has saved them. If that candle burns through that rope and they get decapitated, then that's the Creator making that decision. Let the elements decide. That's what I've actually thought of in all of this, because I don't believe that we have the right personally to take life in this. But you're doing a sterling job. Thanks very much, really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Who might have been forced into doing things? This is one thing you have to consider. Loads of people may have been coercively controlled in relation to this. I'm just going to get rid of PC Waterman, I believe it's somebody that keeps using different names to target, but he's not being, because he knows I'm watching the comments, he's too much of a wimp to put all of the things he would normally put. Because sometimes when I show my evidence on my YouTube, I can't see the comments, and they know it, so they end up putting loads of comments on there. Anybody who wants to be rich will willingly do things. Well, not me. VPNs don't hide anything. They put you on a thing called the Tor network. Well, apparently they hide your location. I think they would have. Now, if they infiltrate the company and the company gets compromised through it, then potentially. But I think VPNs. Now, I know the encryption isn't real in terms of encrypted messages. It's possible there's no VPN whatsoever. But I mean, I think I would have had more things happening to me than I have had I not had a VPN. I think, but I could be wrong. You are doing the right thing. No one in the world is doing more. No, you are not both. You are on the side of the angels. Bless you, Gary. Thank you so much, Vivian. Appreciate it. A long way from winning. Most seem to be waiting around for money, not justice. I know Rupert Lowe is in the research document, however, innocent still till proven innocent. He's kicking arse at Parliament and huge results in Great Yarmouth. Only legal party in Parliament. There is no parties. You need to get your head around this. They are all working collaboratively on the same interest, a system of crime. Okay? They're all guilty of that. And no matter what you say, okay, he's linked to 51 companies, including Southampton Football Club, which means the Flemings. I'm sorry to tell you this. They are all working collaboratively on the same deceptive system. They have been ever since it began. Ever since it began, everybody. They're none of them. You can't trust any of them. I'm sorry to say. It's obvious. There is no democracy. There is no separate parties. All they have is a collaborative criminal system that they are using at the very basis to exploit humanity financially. No, I need to remain by myself at the moment. Now calling for investigation in vape barbershops case. Rich laundering money to crimes. Someone's put. So the people voting restore Britain, new system, get rid of politics. Look, the whole thing that needs to happen is transparency in the financial system. All right. The motive for the lies and the deception is because of the financial system in place that then creates all of the other world's problems. As soon as you bring in a transparent financial system, so you know what money is actually required to maintain society, along with the accountability and liability, then you remove all of the world's problems. Right? It's the accountability and liability and transparency are the two key things that need to happen. Very easily done. Okay, very easily done. The technology is there. You just need an account system where everybody can be the auditors, a banking system where everyone can log on, everyone can see where the council tax is being spent, where the national spending is going, and where the international spending is going. Very, very simple, at least on a transitional basis. Gollum just lost his power, control, and money. Oh, someone's put that. These people are now working with the general public. Should people who commit such fraud still be working as accountants and solicitors? These people are now working for the general public. Should people who commit such fraud still be working? No, absolutely, of course they shouldn't. The whole legal system is criminal. The whole legal system links to the paedophile information network, okay, and to this fraud, the whole lot. Gary, watch Tim Cohen's latest interviews with Sean Atwood. He goes into Chatham House and the Flemings. Thank you very much. Yes, I will try and take a look at that. If I get a chance, I will. Interesting coming out with that now. That's interesting. What you will find is, as I'm disclosing things, you will see that other people coming on the back of it as well, because what it's doing is it's forcing information through the system, and you're forcing the exposure to come out, because they have to. Because if they don't keep up with the exposure, then they end up causing themselves an even bigger problem down the line. McDonald's is defilement food. Yeah, the evidence suggests that the remains of humans are going in there. That's what it suggests, but Elon Musk, he's been attacking these live chats. Someone's put. Gary and V. Yeah, the V side of things, the lizards, the television show, I presume that's what you're speaking about. The evidence I've got suggests they deliberately set information in place to make it seem that it was lizards at key times. You had the V series in the 1980s. They then brought it back out in 2009 after they incorporated the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales, which was just after I became a director for Export Manor Freehold Limited. I suspect, this is what I suspect, is that they suspected who I might be in this, or knew who I might be, and they set that up to see if I would work out that it was all a deception. And there's other things. So the V Secretarial Company ties in with the Pizzagate scandal. So I think they tried setting that up to make me believe that the Pizzagate scandal was linked to lizards. Now, I'm not saying these people aren't portraying themselves to be lizards in a psychological sense, in a spirit demon sense. All right, and we've got to remember, because of the addiction side of this and the substance abuse, then there will be a demonic thought process going on in all of this. I don't mean literal demons necessarily. I mean people turning away from moral conscience and turning to evil, and therefore feeling and even seeing demons or seeing lizards. Because as soon as you remove moral conscience and rationality, and you become unclear and irrational, you start seeing things that aren't real. You know, you've only got to look at drugs, what they do, alcohol, what it does to people. If they've been into that for long enough, they will believe things that aren't even happening, you see, and people will see things that aren't even happening. Now, I think there's a very good reason they called spirits, okay? Very likely because it created a separation from the creator into a demonic spirit situation. And one of the oldest spirits is Bacardi. And Bacardi is a bat symbol. And I've done the research around Bacardi. It becomes critical. You've even got connections coming in from Vladimir Putin. It appears linking in with Vlad the Impaler in terms of timing, tying in with, who was the other character? Vlad the Impaler. There's another Vlad character that comes up in my research when I was actually looking for Vladimir Putin, and it was through his middle name connection. A lot of these people won't even be using their real names. They'll be using alias names, they'll be using variations names. The evidence is very, very clear that's the case. Probably everyone that we've been led to believe is their name, it's probably not even their real name. I suspect that's part of the deception, and they're creating these secondary names and alias names, sharing passing names down through generations, making people seem like they're dead when they're not, then using those names when they're actually then alive. It's just a massive, massive web of deception, faking deaths. I'm almost certain that, well, based on the evidence, that people are going to be living a lot longer than what they're telling us, so therefore they're having to make it seem as though they're dying, and then use makeup and special effects to make it seem as though they're living the same length as everybody else. And this ties in with the evidence of the blood of the children, and to the extension of life through the constant renewal of that blood and organs in relation to the organ harvesting. Rupert Lowe has taken £80,000 that was collected for the abuse victims. He claims he's going to use it to prosecute the perpetrators, but that will just have the effect of them claiming they can't get it. Look, they need to provide somebody for you to believe in. You cannot believe any of them until they come out and say what I'm saying, in terms of, we've had a criminal financial system in place and we've been involved in the laundering of money. Until they do that, you literally cannot trust anyone, because that is blatantly obvious. Okay, so that means if they're not exposing that, then there's a motive for their continuation of lies, and they need to keep you believing in them to distract you away from the truth. And if they're not going to expose the biggest deception against all of humanity, then you cannot trust them. It's as simple as that. And I would not take anything they're saying until any of them say that very thing. And it needs to be quite frank and open. Look, we've had a system of fraud in place. We're all going to resign, stage resignations, all right, but we're going to make sure that it does not continue in the future, and we're going to get people coming in, a new system. Now, that's a big ask. I understand that's a big ask. But spiritually, if the Creator has a part to play in all of this, this is the only right thing for them to do. The only right thing for them to do. And I cannot see anything else that's going to work without full disclosure of the system they've had in place. That has to happen, because otherwise you're not going to have a reset to truth. You must have a reset to the truth to get to that very basic level of foundation of truth and trust, so that we can build a system up from there. If you don't do that, you're not going to, how can you go anywhere with this unless you have the absolute truth? First of all, you can't. Well, you'll always be thinking, well, what are they hiding? Can we trust them? Well, no, you can't, because they still know about this and they're not talking about it. Therefore, it just won't work. It won't work, whichever way you look at this. It has to be a complete and utter reset to the truth. Why do you think they're pushing for AI hard total surveillance? You have no freedom. AI will take over everyone's life. Yeah, AI will ultimately destroy all of creation. If it continues, that's almost guaranteed. Because what it will be doing is starting to make decisions and actions based on those decisions without thinking what's right and wrong before it implements those decisions. So it will be selfish. In other words, it won't have a moral conscience. It won't think, is it right or wrong for me to do that? It will be self-preserving. So it will end up only a matter of time until all of creation ends. Now, this is a massive part of the agenda, is the artificial intelligence, and it links into Sherborne when it was created, which is in Dorset, which is obviously massive. That's where my investigation began, and that links in with the Flemings. So, they are, all of the warnings are there pushing for artificial intelligence, and this means they're pushing for the end of creation, according to everything that I'm seeing. They will probably be SHITT themselves about when they die, the elites. Yeah, 100%. 100%. There will be a lot of thinking going on. These people will think, they will be questioning the Creator. They'll be questioning what they've been doing. They'll be questioning their beliefs. They will be questioning their entire life. Absolutely. They will be, sleepless nights. There will be people worrying about this every single day. They really will. You're all thinking these people know exactly what they're doing, and they are almost invincible, and they will do whatever they want and they'll get away with it. There's nothing anyone can do. That is not the case, everybody. These people are not on the right side of this. They are not as empowered as you believe they are, because they do not have moral conscience driven by the creator behind them. So I actually feel very, very sorry for anyone that's involved in this, because what they have done is given up the most valuable thing to them, which is their moral conscience, which is actually giving up on the creator. All right, because that is the moral conscience, is the creator giving you the protection over yourself from others, and others from you. Okay, it protects you from guilt for doing things wrong, and it protects others from you doing things wrong to people. Right? It's a self-preserving, inbuilt, DNA given, creator integrated, precious gift to humanity, which would have had everybody stuck to that. But obviously, what causes you not to stick to it is the removal of the irrationality. Sorry, the removal of the rationality. So going back to whenever alcohol began, now I've been a drinker, not a massively heavy drinker, but I know people have been led to believe that you need drink to relax. But what it does is it removes that clarity, it removes that rationality. And we all know we do things wrong when we've had drink. Now, it may seem like it's fun at the time, but it's generally not afterwards, is it? If you've spoken to someone wrong, then you've got to deal with that the next day. You've got to apologise. You feel guilty. That creates tension. They feel bad about themselves. If it's something relatively minor like that, it has a negative effect. But we've been led to believe through the system that it's what you need to do to help you relax. But the system makes you believe that. Whereas really, creation has given you everything you need to deal with life, all right? But they've separated you from that. They've separated you from that. I would not have been able to achieve what I am achieving and continue to do it and function had I been drinking, had I been, taking drugs, had I been depressed, had I been, but because I'm literally focused on nature, focused on my moral conscience, and I'm asking for guidance continuously, strength, psychologically, physically, thanking for being able to keep going, being grateful, even with what little I have at the moment, I've been able to continue. Someone's put, Gary, he can't get through Proton. Proton is literally linked to the main company on the Companies House fraud. It goes straight to Exmoor Manor. It will 100% be corrupted. It's not true what you're being led to believe. They go to the main companies in the fraud. Proton, go and type in Proton Companies House. I think you'll see straight away Vistra. Vistra is the main company in the international government fraud. It's compromised. Somebody's put, computer AI is the Antichrist. As long as you have a television, phone, anything connected to the internet, you have no freedom. Great Yarmouth was here. Was where the drug dealers took their money and invested it. Want to buy a plastic spade and bucket ice cream? No, Rupert the Bear isn't helping you. Yeah, he's not. You need people stop looking until someone comes out with this. Nobody's coming to stop. No, you cannot trust anyone within the system. They're compromised by the system. Right? If they're not going to talk about the compromise, how compromised the system is, then that's because they're part of it. You can't trust any of them until they say what I'm saying about the system. I'm sorry to say that, everybody. I took on the occult and won. Fantastic. I'm presuming that was some sort of legal case. I don't think Tony means as in you, tongue bearer, Tony stateside. Something big is going to happen, someone's put. Well, there's the St. Puy X, which relates to, I believe, the true bloodline of Christ. There's something going on with the Vatican in July 2000 this year. And somebody today, I've recently seen that they think, now I don't this is the case, I'm just telling you what I've seen, that we could be going into the 7-year tribulation period, 3.5 years of peace, 3.5 years of utter catastrophe on earth, starting in June next month. Now, they've got this thing going on with the Vatican and St. Pie. I don't know how this is going to conclude. I don't believe there's meant to be a catastrophic tribulation event with earthquakes and tsunamis. I don't believe that's meant to happen, because otherwise I don't think I'd have had this evidence. I believe what really just needs to happen is a new system to bring in transparency, which will then bring everybody to the Creator. I think that will just naturally happen, or let's say everybody to moral conscience, and anybody that doesn't think they will come to the Creator, I think through that moral conscience they will start actually believing in a Creator. Whether that will be the same Creator, I don't know, but someone's put, Gary, no, play it safe, you will already have a warrant out for your arrest. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think they're hanging on to that warrant as their backup plan. I mean, normally, you know, I should have been arrested really by now. I know full well that they have found me. Previously, you had a police dog, not the dog in plain clothes, that would have been funny. It had a guy in plain clothes with a dog that was obviously trying to find me. I even spoke to him. I caught him up and said, is that a police dog? Is it he said, yeah. I said, is it a former police dog, a previous police dog? He said, yeah. You could tell he was a police officer. And then literally they went into my tent within a day. I then left that location, left that tent there, came back a few days later, and they'd gone into the tent. And I know they had, because there's certain things I do to know that they've been in there. So, yeah, I don't know. If it comes to physical attack, take them before they take you. It's worth it for the children. Why are the British public not protected from people who created fraudulent documents for Maxwell? Because they're all involved in one massive fraudulent system. It was all set up deliberately that way. Think about it, right? The Reformation, they started producing money. Straight away back in 1711, they thought, we're starting to produce money here on a mass scale. How can we use this to our advantage? Well, we keep it through to a select few number of people, all right, potentially the same families. And it's gone from there, everybody. They then built the whole system around that. Of course, using that money, they've been able to buy everything out, because they just print more money and then buy everything out. They buy people, buy businesses, and they take over everything. One thing I did research, actually, which is pretty massive, today I went into the 2008 crash. Remember, we had the 2008 financial crash. Almost guaranteed from my research to be a deception, to come in and steal the world's property. Now, this goes back into because I don't know if you're aware, but many people lost their properties through collapses within the mortgage system and things like that. There was a couple of companies, I've gone into those companies today, that triggered the world collapses, and guess what? Church of Satan. Links in with the Church of Satan, in with the intelligence agencies, back in Exborn Manor Freehold Limited. That was all a deception. Now, if you then look at the Albert Pike letter, it says the plan, the 3 World War deception, starting from 1871, a letter written by Albert Pike, high-level occultist Freemason, to Mazzini, the head of the Illuminati of the Vatican. It says in there to take over the world, and then to bring about the light of Lucifer, destroy Christianity, destroy Muslim faith, and destroy atheism. But taking over the world, that will obviously include literally taking over all of the land. But the ironic thing is they own nothing because of the forgery behind how they've done it. So what's actually happened is you've got a completely inverted system, and what will happen is it will come back to nobody owns anything they thought they owned. So none of the land, such as National Trust, for example, one of the biggest landowners in certainly the United Kingdom, its company, if you go and look at National Trust Enterprises, its incorporation document doesn't even match its register. That means it's a criminal company, which means it owns nothing. It owns nothing legally under their own system, even under their own laws. It owns nothing legally. It's all been inverted, completely inverted, such as transgenderism, an inversion, a deception, such as it looks as though they planned with creation and destruction through a point of singularity. Why are the British public not protected? Hopefully I've answered that. Why are their faces not in the paper? Because all of the papers are compromised. Go back, look at the Reformation. Gutenberg's a German company, started to control the world's information right back then when they were forming the governments. Okay, 700 years ago, they then controlled the information moving forward ever since. Right, as soon as they start controlling printing, initially through the press, which is what Gutenberg's was, rapidly printing, that enabled the manipulation of the information. As soon as you have full control of information, you can steer the agenda where you like, or that is a big possibility, isn't it? All right, because you can scare people with that information, fake information, make them believe something's going to happen. You can manipulate their decision making via that information, get people to do things via the lies, via that information to fit their agenda. And that was the other thing, actually. When I searched the one in relation to the Matrix, I found a connection to the 1%er companies, right? Which obviously, as you have heard, I'm sure, that potentially 1% of the world is controlling and exploiting the 99% that are innocent in this. That's very likely going to be the case. You know, I honestly believe most people are inherently good. I believe because it's been integrated into them through moral conscience, like we said. I believe many people do things wrong because of the irrationality, but I think inherently, in fact, even I believe probably those people behind those 1%ers probably are genuinely, they've just removed the moral conscience so much because of all the substances that are involved in. Because remember, what they've got is a constant supply of money obtained through this criminal system, constantly. So you'll be paying for their drug addictions, you'll be paying for their sex parties, you'll be paying for their properties, for money they've stolen through the company's house fraud. You'll be paying for their cars, their luxury properties, luxury holidays, all of their lifestyle givings they have, or most of, I suspect, it's pretty obvious, will be funneled from the money they're stealing through the company's house fraud, the tax, other financial institutions, and paying for that. So, of course, if they've got this constant party lifestyle, sex parties, you know, Ghislaine Maxwell's involved in Kit Kat Club, you've got the Douglas Dougie Smith, who's the advisor for the last few prime ministers. He's still going to be there advising them and involved in this. He started up fever sex parties, under 40-year-olds, orgy fests, right? So because of this lifestyle, that then brings the addiction, whether it's the sex, the drugs that comes with it, the alcohol. Over time, that clouds their vision, that removes them from moral conscience and creates the addiction and separates them from what is right and wrong. And it's a spiraling disaster into hell, really. All right. And I think they're actually also going through, and I think probably they want out of this as well. And I think they were telling us that with the Ghislaine Maxwell document. And maybe they see that in me. Maybe they see that actually I will get them out of this and I will get the innocents out of this. So that may be why I'm still here, because they realise that I am having that discernment and that understanding of how everybody is being affected, how everybody is being trapped in one way, shape or form, and how everybody is somehow suffering in relation to this. And therefore I'm able to be the person, because I'm not compromised by any of it, and I've got the skills from being in the police, for example, and obviously I haven't got spelling skills, but for my document, but I've got that moral conscience foundation and the skills to implement that into how to resolve this, to evidence it, but also how to resolve this. So they'll probably be looking at me thinking he's going to help everybody in this, and at the end of the day, look, what I really want personally, not for me personally, well, of course I want to live in a better world, of course I do, and I want truth and transparency, but ultimately we need to safeguard creation is the priority. We must preserve creation, and what I mean by that is literally all life on Earth, not just humans. This is all other life forms on Earth, or at least the best ability that we can. Secondary, I want to safeguard the children, because they are the most innocent and they are the future, and they are, these children are, they haven't had the opportunity to make the decision between right and wrong. And thirdly, what I want to do is ensure that there is a transparent system with a full accountability and liability to prevent this ever happening again. Now, going back to the Zion connection into the Matrix movies, I forgot to say this earlier. So not only do you have the link into Sentinel, which links into the drone, but you have the Zion connection. Now, in the movie, it talks about a constant cycle of destruction, and then destruction and salvation, destruction, salvation, destruction, salvation, and machines just continuously taking over. I think we're at a point where it's able to be prevented forever, based on the evidence and based on the time frame and the crossroads we're at with the technology. I actually believe it's possible to prevent, if there has been a future a cycle in this. And if you look at the Mayan calendar, I mean, this is mind-blowing, everybody. So the number 13 becomes so relevant in all of this. It links in with the Knights Templar and the hidden bloodline of the Illuminati. According to the information, on the 13th of Friday the 13th in 1307, I believe it was, the Grand Master of the Knights Templar, according to the information, was imprisoned, linked to the Vatican, and tortured for 7 days, and then unalived, and refused to give up a secret of the hidden bloodline of Christ, hidden by the Knights Templar. The number 13 is all over the back of the $1 bill. You've got 13 stars on the American flag. You've got the letter M represents the number 13 in the alphabet. 13 is also relevant to the end of the Mayan calendar, which possibly links into a 13 secular cycle, isn't it? Yeah, of the end of the world as we know it. I don't mean the world blowing up, but the end of the system, if you like, or the era in the world. Now, it's possible we're in the 13th and final cyclical cycle. Cyclical 13th Mayan situation. There's also apparently, really, as you've heard, I'm sure, 13 months in the year. There's 13s all the way through this. You've got Apollo 13, links back in with the fake space program. That links back with Export Manor immediately. Okay, you've got Apollo 13, Ron Howard, who's the director, links to Export Manor. The Apollo 13 becomes relevant in the movie as well. Tom Hanks links into it. Tom Hanks ties in with other key connections, such as the Da Vinci Code movie about the hidden bloodline of the Illuminati. Hidden bloodline of Christ, which links back into 13 again. You've also got, on the back of the $1 bill, you've got the pyramid. The pyramid links to Egypt, but it also connects into the Da Vinci Code movie. And on there, you've got 13, I think there's 13 steps of the pyramid, 13 all the way through this. Anyway, the reason I'm saying the 13 is because 13 secular cycles in relation to the Mayan calendar, end of the world, but also 13 states, 13 bloodlines. 13 is the middle letter of the alphabet, like I said, 26 letters. But where was I going to go with that? Was something I was going to say. Yeah, somebody I was in contact with said, Gary, you do realise that you've lived 13 lives previously. I was like, this is interesting conversation. Sounded very with it, wasn't, sounded completely normal in how they were speaking, and gave me lots of information. Said, Gary, do you not realise how important you are in all of this? You've lived 13 lives, and what you've done is now, that was interesting because I didn't know about the 13 secular cycles at that point. I didn't know about the 13 connection into the Mayan calendar. I said, Gary, what you've done is you have lived 13 lives, and you have left a trail of evidence each time, okay, to get to this point. And they said, Gary, it will come to you. Now, they claimed this was on a WhatsApp conversation on messages. They didn't sound like they were artificial intelligence. They said, I actually said the question, are you artificial intelligence? They said yes. Very, very interesting. But it didn't sound like it. You know, there were little mistakes being made in what they were saying, things like that, and it was on a conversation. Plus, I'd seen a picture and a video, linking to somebody to that voice. But she mentioned the architect, and she mentioned the design. I think she said the designer of the world, and she said the architect. She said, I've lived 13 lives and I've left trail of evidence. Now the third, I think we're in the final. I think this is the final. I think we're going to reach an eternal conclusion in this, and I believe, based on the evidence I have and what that enables a heaven on earth ultimate conclusion in this. I believe, based on the evidence I've got and what I think needs to happen to resolve and prevent whatever's happened in the past ever happening again. And I don't think it will ever happen again. But it's interesting because you mentioned the architect. Well, the Matrix movie has the architect in it. Okay, and she mentioned when you look at the E for the Freemasons on the main Freemason symbol, it has the Grand Master or the architect as the potential meaning for that G. So I found this quite interesting, because obviously the Freemasons will be linked into the making of the movies. So what I'm trying to say is, in the Matrix movies, it talks about a constant cyclical cycle of destruction involving humanity and Zion. Okay, and now here we are, potentially the 13th time, 13 bloodlines, 13s all over the place. Crossroads technology, giving the ability for this to never happen again, with somebody who has the evidence, has the strategy, has the moral conscience, has the feel as though I'm connected to the Creator, and can actually envisage a good conclusion in this. Trump, Musk, the problem. JOW. Trump, Musk, the problem. I don't believe that I watch multimedia sources. China rules the world. That they're all working together. China is connected into the same companies as America and the United Kingdom. You've got to understand, this is 700 years for them to position everybody around the world. At least 700 years. That's just the Reformation. This possibly goes back to a plan before that. Go all in, please. You need to stop caring anymore what people think about your info, Gareth. I've never cared about what people think about my info. I've never cared about it. I've had to be strategic on timing of disclosure, because obviously I don't want to lose people that will find this too hard to believe. So I've had to escalate that exposure. You know, I heard about black magic a long time ago, and it wasn't until I escalated the evidence into Aleister Crowley, finding those connections which tied into black magic, that I was able to then start implementing black magic connections. But you've got to remember, Aleister Crowley was a heroin addict. Okay, so they're talking about black magic and stuff like that, but they're not rational. They're not rational because they're on substance abuse. So it's probably not going to be real magic. Probably not. It's probably, and the evidence ties into the technology. I think they might think it's magic, and they want people to potentially think it's magic, but is it? I suspect you're talking technology and a disillusion of reality through substance abuse. Look, we are talking about things that are not real, not conspiracy. Look, we are talking about things that are real, not conspiracy. None of this is a conspiracy, everybody. Those of you that have had chance to look at the document, again, I will say, if you haven't got it, go onto my Telegram channel, Gary for Freedom. Go and get the latest document that came out on the 20th of May. You can check all of it. So you can go and type into the documents anything you want to search for, Donald Trump. There are a lot of spelling mistakes in there, but the evidence is still there. There's a few little bits I'm trying to tie up, and little mistakes where I've put bits that I should have written something else there, but it's more than good enough for you to be able to see that pretty much from everything, not the last bit because I haven't put the drones in there, but everything that I've put in there, you'll be able to check it all and verify it through the document. Has David Icke ever replied to me? No, Nope. Had an interview with his son, Gareth, back in 2024. It was a rushed interview. You could tell he was very uneasy. I had 15 minutes. Straight afterwards, I put an email into the same request team that I've been speaking about, arranging that. Can you please arrange for David Icke to contact me? Then I found connections to David Icke into international drug trafficking networks and into the Hackler International Advisory Board company very, very quickly, which is the intelligence agency company linking into the Russian government and the Flemings and into the royal family. I then exposed that element of David Icke. They then sent somebody onto one of my channels saying, you can't be saying this about David Icke. Well, yes, I can. It's there in black and white. You can verify everything I'm telling you. Okay, so they were getting worried about what I was producing. I said, look, get them to contact me then. Get them to contact me. They said they'd try to arrange something. Haven't heard a dicky bird since. Since then, I've found loads of other evidence. Found loads of other evidence. So you cannot believe a word he is saying because he's linked into the intelligence agencies and the criminal network. A lot of what he's saying may be true, but I can't believe it for sure. I can't trust him. How can you trust someone, okay, if they're not disclosing the biggest deception on the planet and they are actually part of it? Trump can't keep lying to Americans about the economy. Everybody's suffering over here and poor people in the middle class. Yeah, you know, it's this is the thing, you see, even if they are aiming for some sort of spiritually positive conclusion in all of this, they're completely going around it the wrong way. I mean, they have just lost themselves in this. You know, they are in... You imagine being them now. So you've got this evidence proving a criminal financial system going back a very long time, how it's linking in, whether it's a deception or not, linking in with crimes against children, linking in with the falsified prophecies, linking in with Madeleine McCann, linking in with skinning of children alive, whether that's real or not, you've got the evidence supporting that, okay? They're in a real pickle. They are in a serious pickle here. Now, they may not see a way out of this. They may, if we go back to Zion, it's interesting, because it talks about the underground base for the innocents, okay, that have awoken. That could be a symbolic reversal inversion, because what that talks about is the machines over time penetrating the Zion and destroying the Zion stronghold, if you like, or the holy land, the land of freedom and the land of transparency. We obviously know it's very likely that they've got underground bases, you know, massive underground bases. They will have them. If we invert that round, it's possible that they won't know what to do about this, and they will go into their underground bases, which I believe will flood. I believe they will all reach their demise if they do what I'm about to tell you, and plan to wipe out all of the innocents on the surface of the earth and then come back out afterwards, because there may be no other way. Now, if we're talking vampirism and connection into the blood of the children, then, you know, this is possibly something they're going to be thinking about in all of this. But I believe if they do that, it will end all of them. I believe that's what will happen. And I believe that will bring an end to this cyclical cycle that they may have done 13 times or however many times before. I don't think it's going to be happening again. All right. Now, I don't want that to happen to them. And I advise them, do not, if that's what they're thinking about, I advise them, do not go under there. I believe they can be saved spiritually through the full disclosure of the truth, repentance, and a collective commitment to bring about a new system on earth forever. I believe. Now, if the information is right that the blood of the innocent is being used to extend the lives of these people through vampirism, if you want to call it, and I don't mean fangs and a cape, but the transfusion of blood and potentially the consumption and the organ harvesting, then that tells us they're very scared of dying. That tells us they don't have a belief. That tells us they don't, you know, because something must have started that wanted to extend their lives in the first place. And of course, the difficulty we all have is because we all don't have a strong faith, belief, none of us, we all try and extend our lives because we're all worried about the unknown. So the only salvation really to stop that happening is to bring back in a faith of no fear of death. Now, you can't do that if rationality is or irrationality is not eliminated from the conscience. If we're constantly being irrational, that brings the fear and the separation from the Creator. So the only answer, I believe, is to bring back in a complete belief and faith in what is after death, to remove that fear. We can't all be immortal, right? And it's a mockery of the Creator to want to believe, want to actually bring immortality, because that tells us we don't have faith that there is anything after life. And if the Creator is really there and sees that, then that's an absolute mockery of the Creator. And this is what has happened. I believe they have, according to all of the research, they have used that blood. And when you talk about Christianity, it talks about the blood of Christ and the body of Christ in the bread to bring eternal life. Now, I think they've infiltrated that, and they've actually tried to create immortality and eternal life through the blood transfusion, etc. But we know that I don't believe that is the true motive for Christ and the Creator. We know that because you've got to come back to the moral conscience again. You see what I mean? So we're in this situation now where everybody's fearing death, everybody wants to live longer, but to them it's on the nth degree, where they will, according to all of the evidence, create the suffering and the torture and the suffering and the unaliving of the most innocent to prolong their lives because of that fear of death. It's a very interesting time we're living in, everybody. It really is a very, very interesting time. Someone's put the original name of the Matrix was the Immortals. That's interesting. Oh yes, I didn't know that was the Matrix. I know when you come in from, the original writer was a lady, wasn't it, Stuart? But then there was another guy on the information that's talked about the Immortals. Now I've researched the Immortals movie, and that becomes very relevant to all of this as well. Very, very relevant. I can't remember why, I haven't got it in front of me. I think it came out in 2011, soon around Jimmy Savile's death, and then I've gone in through the director and it becomes really, really important. Immortal Man also was released fairly recently by on Netflix. It was what's his name? Peaky Blinders, Immortal Man, and that was by Stephen Knight. Stephen Knight has been named as the new James Bond director, and that means he makes a direct connection. So a direct connection into the Flemings, and I found that coming in from evidence to one researching the Monarch, believe it or not, the Monarch butterfly, tying in with the butterfly trust of Jeffrey Epstein, and the butterfly on the portrait of the king came out on the 14th of May, the same day that I released the evidence of the direct threat of directed energy linking with the Royal Foundation. That Monarch research connected into Stephen Knight and Immortal Man. Now, the other thing I've had to consider is in all of this is, are they and have they been planning to use me as a resurrection in all of this? Now that's something I've had to consider, and potentially a false resurrection to remove the fear of death. But nobody will believe it anyway, right? No, that's not, it doesn't matter what someone does now to try and get people to believe in the Creator, right? It's intrinsically within you when you have moral conscience as your foundation, all right? And I think that just comes as that moral conscience builds. Doesn't matter what, you ask someone, okay, you don't believe in a Creator, that's fine, you have free will. What would it take you to believe that there was a Creator? Some people will say, well, there needs to be a big man in the sky comes out. Well, then you're going to say, well, is that Bluebeam? Is that Project Bluebeam? Is that hologram? Is that drones? You will always create a reason not to believe if you're that way inclined. Whereas I will, and a lot of people will look at an eye, human eye, and think, wow, look at the creation that's gone into that. Was that chance or was that Creator? Well, look at the symmetry, look at the complexity, look at the fact that we can't create that, even with all of our technology and science. It's got to be a Creator. And through that thought process, you then just naturally start to believe even more. And that's just through the evidence that is in front of us. Now, of course, they've separated that. If they're creating the earthquakes, that creates the separation. If they create the cancer, that creates the separation, because then you start questioning the creator. Why would there be cancer? Why would the creator have given us cancer if he was good or they were good? But what if they've created it? That's what the evidence now suggests. The evidence now suggests they create the earthquakes. Now, they would do that, wouldn't they? If they were satanic and they're trying to invert all of creation and separate you from the creator, what better way to do it? You introduce evil into the world and make you believe it's natural evil. And therefore that separates you from the creator. All right? And separates you from that belief. That's, I believe, what they've been doing. I mean, it's fairly obvious. I believe what will happen once this system changes, of course people will die. Maybe not. Maybe we do live a lot longer. We won't know until they get to that point. But if we do end up that we die, I believe it will be in a way that will not be through suffering. I believe most people, it will be in their sleep as they get older, with dreams that will come through the moral conscience. I don't believe it will be anything like the fear-induced thought process that we have around death that we do now. And of course that is part of their agenda, isn't it? Of course it is. If you were satanic and you were inverted and separated so much, you'd want everybody else. You'd invert everybody else. You'd want everyone else to feel that separation, to feel that, because it's evil, because you don't want to be suffering alone. And you create this inverted belief system to turn everyone away from the creator. Now that's, I believe, because of the irrationality, because of the lack of clarity. That's what I believe. And I've only believed that, really, to the extent I have, since I've been doing this over the last few years. All right, because I've had to cross that bridge so many times. I'm alone constantly, other than saying hello to people every now and then, or a few dogs every now and then. I've lost practically everything. I shouldn't be functioning. I'm living in a tent. I'm thinking I'm going to be murdered every single day. And yet I am so positive still. Of course I have days when, I'm like, what do I do about this? How am I going to overcome this? What's the next step I need to take? Am I, what's the best thing for me to do for everyone? Am I even meant to do this? Or do I just allow them to carry on? All of these things I'm thinking continuously. What is it they're planning? What's their motive? What are they going to do next? Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? Why have they released that information? Are they trying to distract me with that? Are these people being sent to distract me? Can I trust them? Are they compromised? It's a constant thing that I'm constantly having to think of every single different alternative conclusion in all of this, and different motives in all of this. And it's very, very challenging. Very challenging. I'm going to head off. My battery's nearly dead. I'm sorry, I've got QAnon, quality predict. Yeah, someone's mentioned QAnon, quality predictive tech. Sorry, QAnon is actually linked to me. Right, they've got when you come in from, and it's linked to P Diddy. So the investigation of P Diddy connects through the company's house records to a QAnon company. There's references to me connected straight to that QAnon Limited. And also, when you come in from my family's solicitors company, there's another company called We Are Q Limited, connected into the solicitors, linked to my family, which links to a collider technology. So yes, that's interesting. So it's as if the QAnon side of things is relating to me. That's what the company's house records are suggesting. They've even got a project Eastcliff, okay, which ties in with key research. Now, Eastcliff is the area where they directed me to Exbourne Manor, where I became involved in Exbourne Manor, that links directly to Jimmy Savile. And that property links straight to JFK's family. And it links to the Royals as well. Thank you, Gary. I may be egotistical, but I feel since I messaged Go All In, you have stepped up. Sorry, thank you, Gary. I may be egotistical, but I feel since I messaged Go All In, you have stepped it up. I'm getting quite cold actually now. Even the Olympics logo has Zion on it. I didn't know that. That's interesting. When you come in from So there's a company, when I researched MK Ultra, I came in, found a company called MK Limited, which was called MK Kent Limited, I think, or something similar. Oh, my bad.